Sorry, boys. This thing is not cooperating at all. It's trying to tell me I've selected a stream that... Okay. All right. Looks like we're making progress. It was on Wednesdays at one point. It was on Friday. It's been all over the place. All right, send in the intro.
Yep.
I mean, that's the real reason we're
The
not playing
trios is the
solo.
worst. Duos is pretty fun, but it's also now it's turning into Barb and Druid. That's fun. But it's all fighting on runes. Like I think in like the 10 hours, 12 hours I played yesterday, we went down to Crypts maybe twice.
Mhm.
And we're live. Howdy, boys.
Hello.
Gentlemen.
Howdy.
Hello.
Gentlemen.
New year.
You're
New
the
us.
snake, baby.
Oh, New Year, a month late. Happy New Year. Holy shit.
Indeed. It has been a
Yeah.
while since we've been together on this channel. We did have an appearance on the Darkest Hour at the very end of December where we got to talk about the new wipe, but we've had like 6 hot fixes and a full new wipe since we've done our last official HTL. So it's good to be back for sure.
Yes, sir. A lot to talk about. I don't even know where to start, but I'm sure we'll figure that out.
For years.
Where's the
Literal
outline?
years.
Outline. There's a plan.
Scott's got us.
I had Notebook
swear to God,
LM
you'd
summarize
better have
like
something.
multiple podcasts, and Ryan 6 days a week most recent video, which I thought was fantastic. We could spend probably the whole podcast talking about that if we wanted to, but we should probably start with a quick review of our overall thoughts of how the wipe kicked off. Just touch a little bit on Sorcerer, some of the balance changes. I think there's definitely a lot to talk about from the last patch and the changes to Druid. But let's just start with the wipe real briefly, just for those folks who may not have caught the Darkest Hour on, I think it was like the 30th of December. Quick synopsis, feelings on how the wipe started and where we're at now.
I guess I'll just kick it off because why not? I think this has been the best season in recent memory, like probably in at least the past 4 or 5 seasons. I think the continuous dungeon is sweet. I think randomized crypts is sweet. I think randomized inferno sucks ass, but we'll talk about that later. I think the new sword is really cool. They finally tone it down a little bit, so it's relatively balanced. The meta is in an okay spot. There's some issues we'll talk about, winless, some druid stuff, warlock, but generally speaking, the game is really fun. I'm having a good time, and arena's still arena. We'll talk about that too. But generally speaking, this has been a really good wipe. They did all the important things well, and they said I'll work on the details. That's kind of my take.
All right.
Can I jump in immediately
You
and
can.
just fight on that one real quick? The barbarian balance was an absolute giga fest of nonsense, and we had like as far as the dungeons and like the systems go, this has been one of the best wipes for sure. And the balancing was really good up until Iron Mace interfered with it and completely dunked on a lot of the stuff. I feel like the barb changes were really, really heavy-handed. The cleric change was fine, by the way. But besides that, I like the wipe. I like that we have no queue times. I like all that stuff. There were other ways to achieve it besides the continuous dungeon.
The cleric player, all the cleric changes are fine. Yeah, just like throws it in there. The cleric buffs.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, I mean, I wanted to fill that in with like the life bloom and stuff, but that's later in the wipe. Initially, the wipe change, like everything about the wipe has been positive. I'm still not a fan of continuous dungeon in no format, but I am a fan of what it offers. I like being able to queue in immediately, go down to crypts immediately, go down to inferno immediately. Those are all beneficial things. I just don't like spawning in behind someone. I don't like following trails. I don't like playing guess who.
So let me just jump in real quick. Are you still finding that there are bugs with the spawn points? Are you still running into people like jumping right on top of people? Really? Okay.
I spawned with a guy in Ice Caves who just killed the wolves, walked up to me and went, "When the hell did you get here?" Told him I just spawned in, and he laughed. He's like, "Imagine this was high roller." I'm like, "Yeah, imagine you were angry." He's like, "See ya."
and so you just touch on that a little bit, is even if you are not spawning right next to somebody, you oftentimes find yourself spawning like where somebody has spawned previously, and there's a door path that leads to them, and they're like 30 seconds away if you just follow the doors. And it may have taken them 2 minutes. Yeah. Like, all day yesterday, I would just spawn in and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna follow this path and get to this guy," and that sucks for him that he has no idea that I'm chasing him.
I think the actual system is designed that when the player is in, like, let's say a player spawns top left and they go to the top right and they die there, the moment they die, that spawn is open and you can spawn in that spawn. So I find myself spawning in and taking the routes of players and just finding a corpse. 9 times out of 10, I find a corpse or a taken blue. I'm 95% sure that's how the system works. If you spawn in in the top left and you immediately leave, that spawn's open, it'll put another person there. And it's happened to me at least 20 times in a row.
I think it's proximity
insane.
based, but because like there's definitely been times where they've still been alive, for sure.
I had one of my 2 teammates die and had somebody's group spawn behind me in my spawn. So I definitely think a death or an extract triggers that spawn to be open for another player group.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Josh, what do you think?
I think mechanically the dungeons are in the best place they've ever been in. I think continuous dungeons was a really good feature. I love Iron Mace's willingness to do sort of random changes that are very effective of the entire game world, such as removing the brackets and then bringing them back. I like that. I wish the test server. Am I quiet? I wish the test server was more popular, but it is finally up to date. Like months and seasons later, I think like 3 seasons later, it's in the best spot. And if you don't know, the test server is literally up to date right now. So now you
Nice.
can play, and I consider it a PvE test bed for a lot of players that want to learn to boss. If you have access to the test server, it's a great spot to do it. It's low population and it's pretty safe. Everyone glossed over sorcerers. I've never been more upset with Iron Mace at balancing and a lack of testing and a lack of direction than the release of the season. I've never been more mad. Sorcerer was just fucking shitting on people 1 versus 3 consistently, killing people through walls, the most overtuned class that has ever released almost. But typically when something is extremely overtuned, like when Sorcerer released, or excuse me, Druid, that was nerfed within like a week, and it was mostly like a root problem and like a few other little things. And it's been fixed over the course of 2 seasons. Sorcerer was broken for like a fucking month, dude. It was like unplayable in my opinion. It just demolished like everybody. And so that was disappointing. And I think that came from a place of Iron Mace when they do things in their office on their local area network. They have fun. They're playing uncompetitively and they're like, oh, Sorcerer is cool. Like, what a cool new class. That should have never made it to live, dude. That's to me, that's disappointing. But like I said, we've come full circle because the test server is up to date. And I'm hoping that going forward, they will utilize the test server and release things to us before the season starts. Like there is a whole period of like 2 or 3 weeks where they can put stuff on the test server like a new class, and we will go test that. There is a way where the public, especially now with like the 100,000 active population or more, we will test things. And so, otherwise big Sork spiel, but otherwise I think things are really good right now. Balance is great in all 3 modes for the most part. Continuous dungeons are a W, randomized dungeons are absolute W, and I'm excited for the future. So it's a really good time to be, part of the Hold the Line.
Is he quiet for anybody else? I had to put him up
he's
to 200%. The moment you
good for
started
me.
talking for the pod, you got real quiet.
Oh, he's level on mine.
What the fuck happened? I have you 200% now.
It sounds like
I
too
might
much
be a
to
little
me.
bit loud though.
200% is too much SPS.
Chat, let me know if I'm too loud.
like,
I'm
changed
queuing a little
nothing.
higher than everybody else at the moment. So yeah, new PC. So if there are audio or video glitches here, blame my my new computer. It does not have a 50 series graphics card in it yet. I was at Micro Center yesterday, and there were people camped out. There was a line of at least
That's ridiculous.
20 people, half of them with like mini tents, waiting to get their 50 series card. And the Micro Center guys, when I went inside to talk to them, were just cracking up, and they're like, "Dude, we have so many. There's no way we're gonna sell out tomorrow." But I didn't check. Yeah, I heard that they did sell out almost everywhere that they were offered, so I should get on and check, see if
That's
my
a cool
location
story,
did
though.
sell out.
If you're like
But
a streamer or like a podcaster or something, and you're like, I was in line in my half 10 waiting for the 50 series. That was like
There's a
cool.
lot of things you could be doing though. And that shit
exactly.
sucks. As someone that's been out there, that shit sucks. Making it for
Yeah.
content, you're suffering, man. I'd rather come home and play Dark and Darker.
You'd rather play video games.
Amen.
I mean,
Yes.
come on.
Let's bring a laptop.
lied a lot.
Meet your
Yeah, I
wife
heard there
there,
was-
and boss.
Like hell, I'd meet my wife in the dungeon before I met her at Micro Center. Come on.
Wait, that would be a sick stream though. Imagine like bring your gaming streaming laptop, waiting in line at the Micro Center, the streaming Dark and Darker in line. Holy,
Grinding in line.
that'd be a movie.
I was told by someone that only 150 of the 5090s were released like nationwide for Micro Centers, I think it was. So I think there's going to be a lot of people very disappointed in that line. Just saying.
Okay.
Lots of people are very disappointed.
All right. Could be. Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Scott?
I haven't decided if I'm going to pick that up, but we'll see.
I'm
about
not
the
doing
old
this.
50 series. So for the wipe, I've played less. Gosh, man, it's been a wild ride. We've unfortunately had like family issues. My wife's dad's been in the hospital since Christmas Day. So every day
Jeez.
since Christmas Day has been a train wreck. But the times I have been in the dungeon have been good, like really good. I agree with Josh that Sork was obviously overtuned early on, but I feel like it's in a pretty good spot now. I played more Sork than Cleric, which is the first time I think in any wipe I played another class more than I played Cleric, and I've really had a blast playing it. Um, the skill cap is insane for whatever reason. Like if I'm playing 10 spell Cleric, 10 spell Wizard, I can remember all the spells are, when to use them situationally, even if I'm old and slow getting to them. I know what I want to do next. But with Sork, like I just don't have it down yet, even after 130, 140 levels, whatever I'm at now.
The problem I ran into with the Sork was since it's like a different kind of caster, since you use both your hands.
Right.
If I play Sork for a bit and then I go between Sork and like Cleric or between Sork and Wizard, it feels so weird. It feels
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
off to me. I'm like, if I'm playing Sork, I'm probably just gonna play Sork for the entire wipe because something about going from Sork to Wizard, Sork to Cleric, it just like drives me nuts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
It
It's
takes a little bit of settling in when
jarring.
you change the 10 spells for sure. I had the same thing when I started picking up like 10 spell Wiz and 10 spell Sork with 10 spell Cleric. I'm like, isn't this my buff? Oh, I'm not even a fucking Cleric. Like I just kind of fall into the set of like
Mhm.
Q up is damaging ability, and then it's like, nope, I'm buffing myself. Oh, I'm not on my Sork.
I do
Right.
that a
Felt like a
lot when
brief
when I
brain
swap
lapse.
from Druid. I will always try to Panther Chicken, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not even at Druid now.
Even when I change Cleric builds, I'll like hit Smite and be like, oh no, I don't have a set of spells.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just little brain blips.
load
Everybody
in
gets
the
it.
Warlock to hit Phantomize. I'm like, that's not intense focus.
I watched you do that the one run, dude.
I
You,
do
like,
it
you
every
started
raid,
in and I
dude.
watched you just Phantomize. I'm like, well, he forgot for a second.
So with Sorcerer, I've noticed this is the only time I've noticed this in Dark and Darker, but it is unique to Sorcerer having two spell wheels, or not two spell wheels that you want to use at the same time. When I'm switching, and maybe it's a skill issue or possibly even a controller issue, because I use the Azeron like Pete does. I've been using it for years. I love it.
Oh,
But
sweet.
for the first time, if I try to set up my spells so that if I want to electric dash, that I'm pulling to the southwest slot on both spell wheels, right? You can do
I do
that
the same thing.
you can do that pretty quickly. I've noticed many times, like this happens 30 or 40% of the time. I've clearly hit both of them, but only one of them will actually be selected, and I'll have to go back and reselect the same spell twice. And I've had a couple people, like Soma told me at one point, he's like, dude, you just got to slow down a little bit. You got to give it a little bit more time. Have you guys that play a lot of Sork noticed that there is a timing thing where you do have to slow yourself down a little bit?
I haven't played with it in a while, but when I was playing at the beginning of the season, if you go too fast, I've noticed that happening, at least
Yeah.
for me.
Very
So
lightly. There is a little bit of a UI delay. Like the other stuff with the casting, I've noticed more than that, like where your just hand is like jiggling for a bit and you're failing to spell cast for a couple seconds no matter what
Mhm.
you do. Like failed fizzled spells entirely, but not as much as the not selecting cycling ones. I'm also doing it like 4 or 5 times like an OCD maniac, so that might be it.
Right.
You know, like cycle, cycle, cycle. Okay, I've selected 4 times. Definitely have to have it.
Yep. But yeah, all in all, this wipe has been great. I think maybe I agree with Ken. Maybe the best one since playtest days. They've had, in typical Iron Mage fashion, they've had some ups and downs. The removal of the gear score brackets, I don't remember I don't think that had happened when we were on the Darkest Hour. I think we talked about trying to remove them. I think it was our position at the time that we
Yeah.
wanted to see less. And then it happened. And there was a pretty significant outcry from the community. And I think some of that had to do with the lack of transparency for how the rookie dungeons are going to operate. And also that a lot of people love playing Zero to Hero. I know I love playing Zero to Hero. I love having the option to just go into the Squire Kit dungeon if I'm multitasking or I'm just sitting down for my first raid of the day. I typically don't go straight into HR. I want to get warmed up. I loved having the option to go into Squire. And when that got taken away, I did understand to a pretty large extent why people were pissed about that. So, what did you guys think?
I'll start. I thought it was a good experiment, like I said initially. And I like Iron Mace's willingness to just really, really do things. A lot of times it's heavy handed. Sometimes it's not enough, but I like the way that Iron Mace handles balance. And I still think personally that they're getting a lot better as the team grows, as they get more comfortable with the legal troubles beginning to be behind them. I think we're going to see a more passionate, focused, and committed Iron Mace, and they're learning as they go. Right, this is their first game as a studio, and it's doing amazing, and it's way further along than most other games would be right now, as we've seen and talked about at the very start of the podcast, or even before. A lot of other games are just going under. Like they just basically waste years of time and money and passion. And here, I feel like a 10-year. I used to say it a lot when we first started. This is like a 10-year project for Iron Mace at least, and we're like 2 years in, and I think we're like a year behind where Tarkov is, where we will have like 4 to 8 maps, depending if you consider the layers, like 6 to 8 bosses, quests, achievements, cosmetics, probably battle passes. But I got way off topic. What were we talking about? The brackets?
Yeah.
Oh, my fault. Yeah. So the reason I really liked it is because the dungeons never felt more populated. The loss of brackets was an increase in population, which felt really good. But also, there is something to be said about the amount of PvP that our extraction game has compared to others. It is, I think, impossible to go from Ruins to Inferno in any game mode and not run into at least a couple teams that are out for blood. And it's very hard to survive for like the newer players. So I think bringing the brackets back was important, and that the community was correct in their outcry. It's good to have an HR mode that's not the Wild West, which is 224 and under, and it's good to have like the Squire brackets back. So I think it was a good experiment, but a return to form was good as well.
Ken?
Actually,
And Boss.
go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I disliked the removal of the Squire brackets. Like you said, it was definitely something that was kind of a staple of the game. The 0 to hero stuff was still fun for me, but it was like the aspect of not having that same even level playing field really did knock it down a peg or two for the joy. If I wanted to at least engage with other players, but the HR change I thought was fine. I liked having the more populated HR. I liked having the bigger idea of not going in there with the big boy mentality of min max 224 grim smiles with plus all ats and just running people down. I like the idea when you run at somebody, you don't know if that guy's sporting life after death and like a full gear set, or he's bringing in complete piss. I really like that shift in the dynamic for high roller, but I did think that the Squire lobbies needed to come back for sure. That's just, but I like that in the high roller. That was kind of the point of the game, I think, when we had that there. So I was in favor of that. And now that's gone, it's back to the way it was. If you want to min max, which is fine to split it when you have the provided player base. So I'm cool with either way, but I preferred having it just be open like that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, boss. As someone, I play D20 a lot, and like I like them. They're fun for me to play, but I understand that I generally think they're actually just bad for the game. I think they don't do what they're designed to do. Like they're put there to like kind of separate like the PvP gear checking sweats from like the more casual players, and that's just not what's happening at all. Like
No.
you can get extremely min max and extremely strong, and just completely roll over people way less geared than you, almost more so than if you were just like in the open bracket playing against just super good people. I feel like I can get a bigger gap in my power in 224 lobbies than I can if I'm just like in the open bracket geared to the max. Just because like the people you run into 224s, like I'll have full epics with plus all grim smiles, and I'll run into like there's a team wearing blues, and I feel like that gap in power is way larger than like the average gap in power in like the regular open bracket. So like I don't know, it just feels like I said, I like them, they're fun, but like they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
A lot of it is crafted gear too. A lot of it is like the way crafted gear works kind of like ruins the whole gear score thing, right? The fact that I
Agreed.
can get a blue piece of gear that has 3 rolls, so I'm basically getting a item that's valued at blue, but it has the power level of an epic. That just kind of that just
And the
ruins the whole
passive
dichotomy.
bonus.
And the passive, so basically
So
5 on rolls. So it's
Didn't
like
we have a
the
patch
power
where it
of a
was
legendary.
double? Like your gear score was double if it was a crafted gear. I remember that where it was like instead of 20,
yes,
it
I
was
agree with
40,
you.
and then they took that away. And
They took
I
that
think
away.
we should go
Yeah.
back to that personally.
However, that is an indicator of the time of the wipe. Because if this was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, people don't have Grim Smiles and they don't have Braves, and that gap is a lot better and it's a better environment to learn in. But I will say now, I think I disagree with you, Ken, on the sense of the power gap. Sure, Braves, Grims, and plus all gear, you're talking like 10 to 20k in gear, maybe even a bit more. That's not as much of a gap to random purples as in 224. And this is a good example because I ran Stinky Stick for 12 hours yesterday and Pulverizing Prayer for like 24 hours. That gap in power right there is way superior to anything you can get in 224. Like I'm in like 500 to 700k in gear, and I'm two-shotting almost everybody regardless of their gear level. That is an unsurpassable gap for anybody who's not in at least 50 to 100k. But when I play 224s, I can go in and like blues with not plus all, and I can kill the plus all teams. Like
Just
they're better, but they're not. The gap is way closer in 224. I mean, you're talking like a bit of gear score compared to where like I have like 1,000 gear score and they have like 225, 225.
Yeah, see,
They're never beating
I
me.
have to hard
yeah,
disagree
yeah,
on
yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
So you're comparing your gear score to their gear score. What I'm not talking about is like the actual stats on their character, regardless of what the gear score number says. Because what the point I'm trying to make is that number doesn't mean much. Because
Right,
like I could have 224, but I could have the power level of 500 gear score if I
right.
use my brain and I like put the right set together. And that's the point I'm trying to make is the gear score is not working as it's supposed to.
I
It's,
agree with you, but I still
And
think
that
that
gap I
gap,
think is way bigger, dude.
the
We
gap in the
killed a guy
Wild West is
yesterday.
infinite.
Like when you said a man that's running a 10 to 20k kit, me and Solar killed a bard yesterday whose rings individually were 8k a piece. So I think that your scale might be a little bit slid
In
in the wrong
224,
direction in 224.
right,
He's
right.
running double all ats Grim Smiles
hmm
with perfect rolls.
But
There is a
what I'm,
gap that exists,
yes, I agree.
like that's way more major. And you're bringing in
That's
a fucking
overcomable though.
Pulve. You are
That's
bringing in
overcomable
artifacts.
because in the 224 you can be in like 2k in gear and you can beat them, and you're getting like a 20 to 40k come up. In the Wild West side, I have uniques with like 5 or 6 on rolls or whatever it is. They're not beating me like ever, literally ever. But down there, like you can beat people still. I do agree with you that the gear score is very like, I mean, the plus all Grimmies, the fucking double max health Braves, you can get a really juiced set down there and do very well, but you're still killable. Like we're talking like 20 to 30 health difference instead of like 100.
So maybe because I play like the squishier classes and I feel like I'm killable no matter what bracket I'm in. So maybe my perspective is a little bit different because I feel like I'm just as killable when I'm playing wizard in open bracket as when I'm playing wizard in 224 because I'm 130 HP in both of them. So maybe like my perspective is like a little bit different. Whereas maybe when you're a 75% PDR fighter with a pull, it could be maybe I'm
As a
you're a
cleric,
god.
having run like the biscuits in 224 and then brought it into like high roller and striking somebody, if they survive more than 4 swings in my smite kit, they are absolutely yacked. That bard yesterday took 6 hits from Solar's kit and he was fucking yacked out of his mind. And we were running 224 heavy with stat weights in the right places, but that was just insanity. I mean, I slurped like Solar knew we didn't check his gear and we got third partied immediately. But Solar was like, that man took 6 hits. Get his shit. So I ran up, fucking slurped as much as I could, phantomized into the red, and that's what we like. The rings alone were just bis perfect true rolls and everything. I think that power gap is way bigger when you fight somebody in 224 bis, and that's something that I've noticed as I play, even as a cleric.
Not to beat a dead horse, but because we're on the subject. There is a difference. Like there are people that min max 24s, and they're fighting you, who even though you may not be 100% min maxing 24, you're still like a vet who's using their brain and like making competent gear sets. Whereas the point I'm trying to make is people that are min maxing 24 fighting the people who that bracket is actually intended for, which is like the more casual player. That gap is huge because those people are just like in with maybe one on roll blues and like for their entirety of their set, and like that gap is crazy huge. I think I think you're comparing like min max sets to other min max sets, and like
you're right.
Well, there's the other
I
other
agree with that.
factor of what's the probability you're going to run into a min-maxed person in 224? I feel like it's
High.
pretty high.
It's very
Really-
high.
really
Versus
high.
running into
Yeah.
how many
Yeah,
times are
it's
you going to run
really
into
high.
a so bad in the 225
It's-
plus?
it's maybe
Once
Exactly.
a month.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is
That is
exactly.
true.
So I would tend to agree with both Ken and so
Yeah.
bad then.
It's almost like it's safer to go 225.
Yeah, I
Because in
agree.
224,
It
there's
is. Yeah, I do
multiple
that.
squads are fucking crafted min-max.
When I want to kill bosses, I go 225 plus, and I almost
Yeah.
don't see that many people.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
the people I do see are just like, I brought in a bunch of shit gear to get in the lobbies.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna be regretful. Wyvern 225 plus is fucking pretty empty for me, man.
Nice.
When I go up there, I don't see anybody out.
I feel like if they fix gear score though, and like the crafted gear, it would be a lot better. I think the problem is there's just so many pieces of gear that just work around what the gear score system is made for, and it just ruins everything.
Yeah,
I
you're
agree,
right.
and it's being abused by the veteran players, so it's already starting on a player that's at a higher power or skill level, and it's giving them that much more of a gap. I just
The
think
intent of
crafted
gear score is
shouldn't
good.
be-
Yeah.
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 Remember back when like we had blue only lobbies? Remember those days?
Under
That-
15 blue only self-found lobbies. Oh God, I want that.
Something like that.
That
I
was
don't know.
good, man.
Yeah,
That
or
was
on the
good.
other side,
Except
where
for
we were like,
you, where
we had
you fucking literally
this.
got it removed because you got it removed with your dropping of gears. Thank
Oh,
you
and
so
the
bad.
artifact. That was
Yeah.
one of my. For those that don't know, chat. Oh, it was fantastic. We had like it was self-found only, right? Like you really couldn't. What were the confines of that rule set back then?
You couldn't get gear from the trading post. You had to be under level 15, and it had to
Yes.
be
Yes.
dropped for you in a raid.
Yes, so I went in at level
So-
1, and they dropped for me Kuma's Fang and Aegis and like a full Ruby
Oh,
Silver
yeah, I remember that.
Gigabit
Yeah.
set. And I was in the level 1 lobby, and I was fighting people in grays, and I had artifacts. Ah, yes, the good old days.
And then they all
Hey, listen,
swarmed
if
him, and
there's
it
a
was
will,
glorious.
There's a way, all right. That's
But this is
that's
an
what it
example
turns
of
out
like
with.
Shameless.
Yeah.
it's an example of the gear score lobbies and things like
Mhm.
anybody that can find that
The vets
loophole is
wanna
going to
win,
find
dude.
that loophole.
Yeah. And like you're right, because the under 224 is supposed to be like, this is HR, have a chance and learn. And instead, every under 224 lobby is gigabis fucking
Yeah.
min-max crafted gear.
Agreed. Hey, while we're
Very
talking
true.
about crafted gear,
Mhm.
with arenas, especially this far into the wipe, where now we have Frost
And the Glee.
and the Glee, and I know we've talked about it before, but is it an overstatement to say like crafted gear is ruining arenas?
I don't know if it's ruining arenas.
Nah.
I definitely think like it puts the bar higher of like for people to be competent or competitive in arena. Like the bar is set very high, but I'm not sure if that's crafted gear or if that's just gemming in general. The fact that you could just like get 4 on roll anything you want, like this sets that bar high, and maybe it's not crafting, but I do kind of hear what you're saying.
I think in a way it actually levels the playing field, because for us guys that play full time, we can get the minted full Legio sets from the bosses, and other people that have less time can just sell a key or wolf pelts or like random shit, buy the crafting mats, and then roll the dice a few times, and they're competitive. So they don't actually need to play that well in the dungeon to still have like fairly competitive sets.
So I actually have a very unique perspective on this. Where like I think I'm 2600 on Wizard right now, and I have not done a single quest this season, so I don't have any crafted gear. 100% of my gear is found in the dungeon, as God intended.
Indeed.
And so
It's two ways to approach the problem, which I think is good. Iron Mace has found like a good connect. And for me, the market this season is really moving. Like every part of the market moves very quickly. Like everything sells. Like even random shit is selling. And so I think the market in relation to the arena is good for the game, and especially
Oh,
gems.
during arena weekend, dude, the price
Yeah.
of gems
Yeah.
doubles. Holy
Yeah,
shit!
they went up by
Pump
50%
and dump,
on every
baby.
gem. It's been like 3 hours, and gems have gone up by 50% on the cost.
Yeah,
So
holy
if
crap,
you're looking
dude.
for
if I was day trading right now, I
Or-
would be holy.
ore and gems is just the absolute gigabits if you wanted to make money. It's insane.
Yeah, Ruby Silver, I noticed went up like at least 50%, if not more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of how the arena impacts the crafting. I like how it impacts the economy, and I like that it's an option for people to fill in the gaps in the gear holes they can't find. Like there's no crafted longbow, there's no crafted decent necklaces. There's like a lot of options where you still need to go into the dungeon, but you can outfit the remainder of your piece with those crafted pieces. The other problem being though is that, like you said, the gems are creating a bigger issue because now you can just completely reset that crafted piece to whatever you wanted it to be. I personally, I think it'd be better if you could only re-roll maybe one stat on a piece of gear rather than just completely regemming the entire thing. It's like kind of a
Agreed.
bastardization of the dungeon system entirely, being able to re-roll a piece of gear like that.
But it's worse though. It's still worse than if you found
It's
this.
still worse, but it's like you can take a piece of shit purple and just gem it to whatever you want.
Four
and you're
on rolls
fine.
is still 4 on rolls, even if
Four
they're
on-
Right.
exactly.
not max.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I like that. I don't know. It levels the playing field. I
No,
think.
I like the gemming a lot. I like the gemming a lot,
Mm.
but
It's
I-
also
I-
mad convenient. Like, holy shit!
Mhm.
I just like you can just buy a literal like you put in purple frock. Let's say you want a frock, and it doesn't even matter what the rolls are. If you've picked up gems all season, you're like, all right, this has got everything I need. Next.
But to touch on what like Arkin brought up with like the crafted gear and stuff, I do think they probably should limit it to a certain extent. I think the fact that someone could be in there with 13 out of 13 pieces all crafted,
Right.
I think, and not find a single piece in the dungeon is probably not a healthy thing. I think 3 to 5 pieces of crafted gear would be a fine max. I think you find at least half your gear in the dungeon
Well, can I ask
Fill the
why you think it's
holes.
unhealthy?
because I don't know, fucking it's awful.
Like they didn't play the character, they still have to
Yeah,
get the
they-
gold
they-
somehow,
yeah,
right?
They
They still have to do the
like,
quests.
crafted gear is too strong though, because like
Okay, it's the strength of the crafted.
I think
gear.
it's the strength of the crafted gear. I think the fact that you could get an epic piece, right? Let's say a piece of ruby silver with 4 rolls, and you get 4 on rolls. Then you have the built-in implicit, so it's 5 on rolls, and then
Mhm.
it's a high armor base. And I think that's a lot of power for not having to find it in the dungeon. Just perhaps buying some ruby silver off the marketplace and gambling instead of like killing a boss. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from my
Playing the game.
perspective, I don't play fighter for shit. I don't know much about fighter. I've got probably like 40 hours of fighter experience under my belt in total. So I finish the quests and I complete them specifically on my fighter, and then I start crafting gear for it. And I'm excited and hyped to get it into the arena in my limited knowledge of the class and start learning it in an environment where I don't lose the gear. So I kind of like the idea that I can craft a set and use it. I wouldn't mind being forced into the dungeon, but
So-
I don't
so
think the
a
power of the
caveat-
crafted is a problem. Besides Demon's Glee, I believe crafting is okay.
A caveat is I think all found in raid gear should be account wide and not character specific. I think that I should have
Okay.
specified that.
Okay.
I think
yeah.
The problem is like the crafting is super convenient for like gearing up your alts. That I will
Mhm.
say, but like
Yep.
that shouldn't even have to be the case. You should just be able to find gear on your other characters and put them on the characters you want to play.
Exactly.
Because like as someone who's like I said, I haven't done many quests this season. When I find a piece of gear that's wearable in the arena, when I'm in the dungeon, I am excited. Like I get a huge dopamine kick. It's very satisfying to open up a golden chest, be like, yes, fucking radiant cloak with casting speed. I've been looking for one of these. I could round out my arena set. That feels good. Probably much better than just crafting it on a spreadsheet.
Well,
Here's-
when you craft it, you might get the on rolls, you might not. And there's some that are like in the specific cases, like I said, cloaks, necklaces. Like there are some uncraftable components. You can get a golden cloak, and that's the only decent thing that you can make. Like, yeah, you can get a frost, whatever. But arena's move speed is not the king there. So it's like you do need to still hunt for certain pieces, I think.
Well, you also
But
have to
I do agree on
quest,
both
like-
points. You do have to quest. So it
and
still
you have
puts
to go
you in that
the dungeon to
experience.
quest. Yeah.
I see both.
I'd like to
I like 'em
see
both.
a new system, not a new system, a small change to the current system to again strengthen the ties between arena and the dungeon. Would be instead of things being said found by, it should say attuned to, and then we can get
Just
an
make the
attunement
account.
stone, which drops from a bosses or something, and then you can reattune something. So now you can just buy something on the auction house and then reattune it to yourself, and then the market and the player base will dictate the price of that. Right? If it drops like 1% of the time from any boss in the game, and then people start selling them, like I'd be interested to
I
see
was
how
with
that would
you
affect
until
the
you said
economy.
marketplace. I thought you were going to say you can attune it to someone in your what do they call it? Not your family.
No,
what's
I'm
your
Make it
your
a quest
kin? Your
reward.
kin.
So,
No, attune
Make
it
it a
to
quest
someone else in
reward.
your account.
right.
We have
okay.
so much
I
we
mean,
could
there's-
do with
there's things we
questing
could do with it.
systems. Like
Yeah.
there are so many ways to like limit the flow or to like you don't have to make it overwhelming, but there are opportunities with questing. And I've said it before, we could do a lot of
Mhm.
crazy stuff. Like your attunement stone could be a quest reward one time, like the chest.
Yeah. I like
Use
that.
it
Or,
on
like,
a
if
couple items.
we don't have daily or weekly quests yet, but you could have a weekly quest that gives you like 3 attunement stones a week. And then you can use it for your own self or whatever. Chat, I see chat says, what's the point of minting at that point? The point of minting is you don't have to use an attunement stone.
Yeah,
So,
imagine
like,
it's a
who kn-
skull key value. Like you
Like,
want to fucking
dude,
drop a skull key on one
yeah.
piece of gear to mint it, you psycho.
I don't know. I like that shit, and I like the idea of if Ken finds every piece himself, he now sells his attunement stones, and like let's say the market thinks that attunement stones is a gold key every weekend when the arena's up. Cool. It's just another way for normal players to kill Lich and be like, oh, it dropped 3 pieces of shit blues. I got an attunement stone plus 10,000. I like that.
All right. How many of you guys watched the last Darkest Hour, where it was the return of the Gathering Hall? Wilson made his reappearance. It was Ryan, Wilson, and Soap. Did you guys catch that episode?
I did not catch that.
No.
There was a
I
lot.
consume no content.
There's a lot of chatter about self-found. And in Ryan's latest video, he referenced something similar. And yeah, there was a pretty strong sentiment, and I tend to agree with that. I know Josh is going to hate this, but I could do without the market entirely. But I realized because so many people enjoy the marketplace, that's probably about as likely as solo going away. So the recommendation that I think Wilson made and Ryan echoed in his video was that you could have an icon. So you can create a solo self-found character where you don't have access to the shared stash and you don't have access to the marketplace. And you would get a different brand / icon that would make you identifiable as a SSF player, or just not necessarily solo, but just self-found. So let's take the solo off of it. A self-found player. And if you select into that option, it doesn't put you in a different queue. You're opting in, and that would give you access to a self-found leaderboard potentially. There was a recommendation to bring back the original playtest leaderboards, which you can only compete in if you're self-found. Thoughts?
Can I go first?
Is that 36 more queues that you just added to the game?
No queues.
No,
Zero,
no.
zero different queues. Zero
no
different
So
queues.
you're queuing against people that are not self-found.
Correct. Yep.
Sounds abusable. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll start, and I'm gonna keep it really short. This is a nuclear hot take. That's a fucking terrible idea and an absolute massive waste of development time that only affects.
Wait, where's the dev time?
What do you mean? You're talking about symbols, cosmetics, titles,
Locking
limited
items to
access
account.
to marketplace. All this shit that you just mentioned is fucking worthless to 99% of the player base.
I
and it's
highly
only-
disagree.
It's only for the no lifer. You can already do that. You want to self-found? Don't use the market. Wow, I just invented solo self-found. That was easy.
To be fair, he's not wrong. If you're queuing them in together with people that have played non-solo self-found, you've lost the entire point in my mind. If you're queuing in to the same lobbies of people,
to not become a trader. You can just act as actually an
Yeah.
option.
this
Okay.
game mode exists. You
is.
just play it by yourself.
Let me go 1 week into this massive waste of dev time that creates solo self-found. I'm a week in. Whoa, I'm fighting a streamer. He has 5 trolls bloods, artifacts, fully gemmed. I have dog shit. I'm dead. Okay, I just lost
Or
everything I've
reverse it.
done.
Reverse
Sounds
it and say you
fun.
get lucky and you kill that guy. Now your self-found run is fitted with all of this bis that you
That you
didn't self-found.
self-found.
So it's the
Yes.
entire. You can't put self-found
What a
with not
useless system.
self-found. That is the
Yep.
that is the part where you lose me. Like
This
you
is-
have to have a separate queue, completely self-found. only.
Here's
That's
just a small amount of drama. You're talking about people who aren't even playing this game full time that are coming in that are like, we should have a solo self-found mode. I'd come back for that. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
I don't disagree. Solo self-found is incredible and would be fun and a blast, but the only way you're doing it is if you keep that in a very solo self-found queue where nobody else is in there but solo self-found players. There's just no way to integrate it with the regular world.
Keep going on that because I'm not tracking. I'm not seeing the issue with blending the queues.
Okay, immediately I'll give you this issue. I'm a streamer and I have a friend who has gear who just died in the lobby and I looted their kit. Now it's not self-found. I've got their kit and I can just like, what's the point? You're making a point for no point is my argument here. Why is that any different than you just playing the game mode right now and doing solo self-found? Where's the difference? There is none.
Yeah. Also, like say for instance, there is a solo self-found leaderboard, right? And like I'm a solo self-found player, and I queue in, and then I'm like, yo, so bad, I need you to queue into my game. Please queue snipe me with Kuma's Claw, please, for my solo self-found character, so I can grind this solo self-found leaderboard with these items that you bought off the marketplace. Like, it could definitely be
interweaving
super
is like
easily abused.
that's
That's not a difficult. That's not a difficult problem to solve for. We already have the system for minting
Dev
and
time.
found by.
That's all
Oh,
dev
okay.
time.
All right. Listen.
It's
The
not
amount of
impossible
the,
to solve, but they
the-
can't even make it so you can't queue with 2 rogues in the same party and queue snipe each other. They've been doing this. It's been like this for months already. Like it's probably a very easy problem to solve. I just hate to be mean. I just don't think Armace will solve the problem. But sorry, you continue your
no,
thought process.
no, that's fair enough. I think the reason that people would want to do it is, I mean, I can't think of an analogy off the top of my head, but just like a lot of other things in life, if you can start something that puts guardrails or limits on the way that you play, and there is no opportunity to exploit it, there is no opportunity to cheat, then if there is a leaderboard, if there is any kind of recognition for doing that, or even if it's just your own recognition of or enjoyment of that, I think the demand is actually out there for it. Like a lot of people
I do it.
enjoy
Then
I
they
know
can
outside
do it.
negative. I think SSF could be really fun. Just as a side note, I think SSF is like a very fun way to play lots of games. I think this game is
Mhm.
no exclusion. And like if next like this season ended and next season they're like this season we're only doing SSF, there's no marketplace, I would be open to it and I would like play it. But I think the problem comes you're trying to mix both of them together, and if you're not mixing them together then you have to have them separate, which then splits the player base. So like if they're going to do SSF, they should do SSF. It should be the season,
Yes.
or it could be an
I'm
end of season event where like okay, the
Yes.
season is over, we're going to do this experiment, we're going to do 1 week of SSF as a preseason event,
Yes. Thank
to
you,
see how
Ken.
it feels. But like I think the
That's
problem
way
is
better.
mixing things. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
If we have an
What's
end of season event where they literally wipe, and then maybe they introduce some new like let's say this is a test server thing. For 1 week on the test server at the end of the season, they have wiped the test server and now the test server is solo self-found. Play there if you want.
And
And that,
and if people love it, then who knows? They take that idea and ride and roll it with it.
yeah.
You know, like
Mhm.
I just see it as once you have the queues together, that's my only issue with it. And I love solo self-found. I play it all the time. I love the idea of the normal lobbies. The Squire lobbies is basically solo self-found multiplayer. Everybody's on the same kit. But like what you're talking about is basically solo self-found where you kill people that aren't, and that becomes
Yes.
it's just it
And
seems like just a waste.
there are not full loot PvP games that are solo self-found. You're not solo self-finding anymore by using other people's shit that they found. That it literally defeats the purpose. So like now we can't loot kills. Things can be picked up that are dropped on the ground. You can't trade. You don't have a marketplace. Like this is real dev
It might
time.
be
That's wasted as fuck.
I'd like it if you couldn't loot kills. Maybe that would be the dynamic. Is if you die, you can goblin your stuff back, but you cannot loot a player after you kill them. You get like if
That's what
they
I'm saying,
introduce
dude.
this, like I said, if we go with dev time, make it so when solo self found kills another player, you don't get their loot. You get an ear that's a consumable or a vendorable. I don't fucking care. Make it into a crafting item, but just something that's taken for the solo self found player. Like you could make it work. It would just be a lot of effort, like you said.
Yeah.
And I love solo self found. That's my
Mhm.
favorite way to play.
Is there no duos and there are no trios? Because now we've already lost SSF.
No. Get rid of the solo. Like just self-found. And the way you would solve is
It's
exactly
not self-found. Now your team is finding you things. Like I drop with Ken, I just give him a whole gear set. Ken's not self-found anymore.
all right. Found
Back
and
on
raid,
the-
like let's just say found and raid. It's basically the same thing as minted gear right now, is the only thing you can extract with. So the system already exists. Like I get it. Everything is dev cycles. Like there isn't anything that you can do for free. But what we're talking about here to create this is literally leveraging the exact systems they already have in place and then just turning shit off. So yeah, it would still need to be tested, but there's not new things that need to be created to make that work. And I think the demand is there for it, but I do agree that it would be better to pilot the system first, either by starting on the test server or doing it for the last week of wipe, first week of wipe, whatever you want to do, or even an entire wipe. Go for it. But I just think that that demand is out there, and the guys on the Darkest Hour definitely did a more compelling job than I have done to communicate that. But I've seen Reddit posts and heard other people
Bro,
talk
put me
about
in
it
with
as well.
them. I'll shit on all of them. This is a terrible idea. It doesn't bring new players or keep old players. It just wastes man time. Next subject.
You
Oh,
get to
crap.
pick it. Pick the subject.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
God.
I'm usually optimistic, but I'm real against SSF. Next
Couldn't tell.
subject. How about randomization of Inferno? I feel like that's a pretty
W.
contentious
yeah.
topic.
Sorry, guys.
I hate it. I hate it. Maybe I don't know why. I love random crypts. Random crypts is like one of the best things in a long time. And I thought I was gonna love random Inferno. I really did it, but I was wrong. Hate it. I can never find the boss. I went to Inferno I think 10 times today in a row, and like we found the boss one time, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like speed running these modules, like checking 90% of the map, and I'm just either the most unlucky person in the world, or like the universe is out to get me because I cannot find the boss room. Also, I just hate half the modules in Inferno. Now that I'm like forced to go through them, I'm like, I hate most of these modules. There's a couple of okay ones, but like Spider module, I hate it. Uh, Hotel, I hate it. Like, there's just so many modules I just don't like in Inferno.
See, though, Hotel is free. Like 90% of Hotel you can walk, and they've closed all of the doors.
Or maybe it's better now, but like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
except that one door that doesn't open because
There's
cool.
spiders in there. I
man.
hate it. There's spiders. Okay, any module with spiders in it, it just turns me off automatically. I hear the little skittering. I'm like, I'm not going in that room.
Yeah.
I think the problem we have is that it wasn't introduced on launch, which is a common Iron Mace theme where they never do anything that's major actually with the wipe launches and then introduce it. And everybody's got this previously set notion of how the wipe is going to be. So the reason I think a lot of people are dissatisfied with it or angry with it is because they're used to doing what you said. They're used to going to Inferno, aping the boss, fighting anybody, waiting for third party. Everyone's addicted to it. The amount of boss kills we had for the first month, let's say it's like 25,000. Now they've reduced it. Inferno's shit can't get to the boss. Boss kills drop to like 4,000. That's how it should have been from the start, and people would have adapted way better to it because they kind of like squeezed the nozzle and filtered the boss killing. Like you said, you're like, I'm going to Inferno. I'm not finding the boss as much. That's how it is now. Like, that is just how it is now. I hate it. It might not be the best. People can dislike it, but that if it was started that way, they would have taken it a lot more smooth. Now, because it's introduced this way, it's frustrating. People are dying. They're looking for the boss instead of going to find blues as their first objective. So if you're doing that, then you're already dead in Inferno, in my opinion. You know, as someone that has to go through there and has spent most of their life solo in Inferno as just like their entire fucking gimmick, I like the Inferno. It's very difficult. There's a lot of ways to clear and places to go to, like a 3-prong module where you can see through every door and check, but you have to go to Inferno and look for blues as your first thing. You don't get to look for the boss anymore. You got to secure your way out and then look.
The boss are my blues. Okay.
I agree. I agree, dude. I will go around once I've found a blue. I will roam the map, and if I find the boss room with fucking 60 seconds left,
I'm going for it.
my
I'm
kid into
going
it.
for
That's
it.
got a blue for me, and I think that's part of it too that makes it good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get there and the boss is gone, and you found your blue, and it's already open. The fucking pile's already sitting there, and you just scoop it up and leave.
I think it's an easy fix. I think if they just made it so the boss room always spawned in one of the 4 middle modules, I think it'd
I
be
don't want
okay.
it. I like it random.
It would
I
still
think
be
it's a problem
random,
now.
but like the boss would at least be centered, kind of, and it would still be one of the random 4 in the center. But at least it would be in an area where if you look through a large majority of the map, you will find the boss. Like, nothing feels worse than I spawn into Inferno. 1/3 of the time's already gone. I'm in the bottom left corner. There's no blues there for some reason because I got unlucky.
Ooh.
I also can't find the boss, and I just don't have time to like do anything. That feels bad.
That sounds like you have a problem with the continuous dungeon that you don't want to admit, because that's where the problem comes from at the base of this. In my opinion, the problem is that you're spawning halfway through in a run with no exit with a completely random dungeon. You should never get that far into a run. At the most, it should be like 2 minutes. It's insane that we can blame the randomized dungeon for that problem, but that is a entirely continuous dungeon problem. Spawning in that late with no time to find or do anything.
Also,
I don't want to fight the wrong problem here.
Whenever I kill 3 mobs, I have to sit down for 30 seconds too. So like that's
well, there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and boss,
things.
that is the best argument against continuous dungeon. I think is that randomized Inferno. It is an actual severe disadvantage because, yeah, I've run into the same thing Ken has, where I spawn in the lower left, I go up again, I go right, I go down again. Not only is there no boss, there's not a single module with a portal in it. And it's like, by that time, you're host. Like, you're just praying that the next room you run into has it and someone already opened the portal. And that you're a sorcerer and you can teleport.
Yeah, and hopefully there's no PvP in your way, or, you know. Yeah, it's a lot of variables. A lot of these have to go your way for things to not go terribly wrong. And, like, I'm like a 6,000-hour veteran, and like I'm struggling, so I can only imagine what like the
Right.
average player has to go through once they get to a randomized Inferno. So.
Right. And I don't mind it being hard, but I do mind knowing that if I load into Inferno 4 minutes later than, and I don't know what the actual cap is. I don't know if any of you guys
8.
have documented this. You can
8
load in
fucking minutes.
8.
It's the
You can
halfway point.
you can load in, oh gosh. Even in HR.
I've loaded in as late as like 2 bars before the halfway point. It's fucking insane.
Okay. Yeah, that's got to be changed. Like other maps, I don't have as much of an issue, but with Inferno, I definitely do. I want the game to be difficult. I want it to be hardcore, unforgiving, all the things that it was always advertised to be. But I don't want to feel like I got RNG'd completely to death on the last level where it's not like I have an option to go red. The other levels, you're at least going to have the option to go red.
True.
There's 2 sets of escapes.
Exactly.
If you think about it.
Right.
They're
Right.
spread out.
Yep.
Yeah, if something goes really wrong on Crypts, you get to roll the dice again and go red. Hopefully.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right.
I almost want to say in regards to that, and this is something I haven't really thought about before, but you could actually have 1 or 2 red spots that's like a demon mouth, and it puts you into the next Inferno queue. You could go into the next continuous dungeon of Inferno, and that's
Reroll the next
actually
Inferno.
yeah, like that's actually
mean,
a
it's
way
not
where
the worst
you could
idea.
kill Ghost, and then you could
Infinite
run over and
Inferno?
go red again. Like
Then
that's
does the
actually
next one have
interesting.
red too? So can I just infinitely cycle
Yeah,
Inferno
yeah, it would
and
be
just
the-
boss
it'd be a
over and
regular
over
red
again?
map.
Gambling.
No
and
problem.
like-
I see no problem
Wow.
with that whatsoever.
In the
It's not like
defense of
Delve League.
both. In the defense of both, with over
Yeah,
4,000,
I'm
6,000
in
hours.
Inferno Prestige 24 right now. You know,
Yeah.
I've survived
To be fair,
24.
I mean,
Those
already
are
a
around.
lot of people just go red, right? They're like, a lot of times I
Yeah.
kill people in Inferno, or I find their corpse, and they have literally nothing. So they're double redding to Inferno anyway. And Crypts has bosses, and Runes has bosses. Like, are they gaining a massive advantage by just continuing to do Inferno over and over?
Yes.
You think
I
so?
wouldn't be against it,
Yeah.
but I'd rather just, I don't think we need more blues. I think the population is used to a particular play style in Inferno, and I think having that changed so drastically has confused and constricted a lot of them, and they still think they can do the same thing, run
Yeah.
down, farm boss, get out, and you can't. You just have to adapt to the way it's changed. And I'm fine with it. If they want to add more blues, that's okay. I personally, and again, I have fucking like 5,000 hours and probably 4,000 is in Inferno. I have never died to not finding a blue yet.
I did a lot at the start of the season, actually. I have 10,000 hours, and I was like, where are the fucking blues at? What is this?
I just
But
immediately
I was
look for the
doing your
blue.
thing. I would go find boss, and then I wouldn't find
Yeah.
it. and be like, I'm dead. But I haven't died since then in a long time. But I agree with Ken. Like, despite the hours, it must be really hard now. Plus, you have 6,000-hour veterans who are killing you, trying to find their own blue. So, like, Inferno is a difficult place.
I
think you
think
guys
it
all
should
make
be.
valiant points, but it
Mhm.
should be. And also, if I'm being honest, I think Inferno is not as valuable as it used to be. Now on Crypts, we have gold piles at Wheel, Vault, Maze, and behind a boss. And that boss drops both Lich and Warlord, drop higher tiers and more expensive artifacts than Ghost. Crypt is more valuable than Inferno now.
Okay, but so you're saying we just add a couple of piles to Inferno? I agree. Inferno
Yeah,
should have a pile.
It should.
No,
Why don't we have bring back the pile in that
I actually
fucking
disagree.
Wraith Centaur
Ghost
Berserker room?
is the easiest boss, and a huge portion of our player base double reds to go fight it and each other or whatever. And I think that's okay. It's like
And now they don't find him, and they die to no portals because they played like shit.
they
So
died like shit.
I'm just saying, like, giving an alternate. I also disagree on Inferno because I go down there and I loot fucking Giga Uniques and Legendaries all day without finding the boss. Like, I go down there and I hit every golden. Like, I know where they all spawn. I know the quickest routes, the least amount of mobs. I make bank at Inferno, and if nothing else, I'll
Sure.
just slap some ore.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
that's
We're silver.
350 a piece. Like, I get 2
So-
mods that spawn next to each other in the corner. I leave with like 18, 20 ruby silver. That is a fucking lot of money,
That's
and
a
I didn't
lot.
have to
That's
do
like
shit.
10K. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of balanced right now, and I like the continuous dungeon cycle. So
I do too,
I
man. But
also-
I think
feel-
Imboss is 100% right about Inferno.
add
That
3
needs to
more
be
blues.
changed.
Okay, add 1 more portal cluster. I think most people would be fine with that.
Probably.
If we just
Yeah.
took the timer down on the
we
Inferno
took-
lobby.
We took portal clusters out, right? Like 1 or 2 modules. Spider bought no portals, and then the one
Nope.
with like the ziggurat, where it's like health shrine or rise shrine, that doesn't have
they were
portals
that.
now
Yeah, I
either.
don't know what they're thinking.
The underneath
So-
was gone.
That maybe not the best. Add 3 more portals in. I think we're probably fine. But one of the reasons I think randomization is important is because you've just brought back like a lot of content, right? Didn't start this wipe with randomized crypt, did we? That came in a couple weeks later.
No, we
And
started
then
with Crypts.
randomized. Did we?
Yeah.
Either okay, you could be right. But then we randomized Inferno. And so now we also have randomization of ruins, goblins, ice, and ice abyss,
Yep.
and eventually ship graveyard and the maelstrom. And
Yep.
so I don't know how those places would work randomized. Is it a good idea? What do you guys think? Like, I think randomization has been a pretty big W.
Huge.
Needs a bit more balances. But like randomized goblin sounds very interesting to me, where like maybe troll and cyclops are side by side. Like, I don't know. Goblin.
So to touch a little bit more on the continuous and like the randomized stuff, I do think there's a problem with portals just being open, like red just being open 24/7, and people could just walk into them whenever something goes wrong.
Yeah.
At least on
We need
Ruins,
that
it's been a
Tarkov
huge
effect.
problem. Yeah, like
Mm.
people just like
3
play,
seconds of
play
standing.
around bridge or play around the one red portal with their windless out, and if they don't get their free kill and they're ever in any kind of disadvantageous position, they just get a out of jail free card and walk into a red.
I
It feels
fixed
so
it.
bad.
Every red stays closed, but you have to activate the lever and it opens, and the first
Sure.
person through closes again. Just anything like that. It stays open 3
Anything.
seconds, but you have to activate
Yep.
the fucking lever.
Anything. If you said to sit in it for 3 seconds, it'd be fine. Or if there were just a
Yeah.
lever, or if you said to open it, it would fix a lot of it. But right now, you just be able to sit next to an open portal and like essentially, I don't know what we're looking for, but like
You get a
roll
free
the dice.
It's an escape.
disengage.
Yeah,
You get a
always
no
know
risk
you have an
disengage.
escape reset.
Right.
Pop all your cooldowns, fail, you're out.
Majora calls it combat logging. It's like oh, I'm losing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna combat
perfect.
log. I'm gonna try again
Yeah.
in the next level.
Respawn at checkpoint. It's just an immediate retry button, and it's annoying because it's also somewhere that other players are trying to get to at the same time. So it's like a double whammy. They're camping it because it is an active point of conflict, and also it's an escape. It needs to be one or the other.
And the fact is that they get to get there first because they spawn there first, and it's completely RNG.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If like
Now
you're the
to
team
throw
that's
that
spawned
back
a
at
little
you,
bit later, yeah.
To throw that back at you, that's the same problem I had with having the boss in a static one of 4 modules. If you spawn there, congratulations, you've won it. That seems terrible. I think
Yeah.
you should have everybody hunting for it.
I have a take on both sides of this because I agree with you, but I've heard my chat and other people say that this is a streamer issue that primarily involves people who want to PvP. You're not liking that you can't get every kill. You're not liking that people can just disengage. And on the exact other side is that if you make it the Tarkov effect, where it's like 7 to 10 seconds before I get to go red, I can no longer get away from anybody. If portals aren't open and I can't just jump in a red to escape, I'm talking about like we're 2 boxes away and you're just killed 2 of my teammates. I would like to survive the raid. I'm forced red, but if you change the current system, I'm just dead. And
No,
so now,
you have to run to one of the solo static blue portals, not the infinite use static
okay,
red portals.
Yeah.
okay, so just change reds. I agree with
The,
that.
the portals
Right.
where an entire team can go down and
Mhm.
not just a one-time use, I think it's like way
Right.
more egregious.
Right.
Even
Oh,
putting a
also,
cooldown on the
yeah,
red
Yeah,
so that if
blue
somebody
should
goes
be
down
in
there, there's like a 10-second, like
or like even 3-second.
maybe when one person
Staggered.
hits the red, the gate closes and then waits 5 seconds and then it opens back up.
Ah,
Anything.
interesting.
Just something that
Interesting.
prevents the constant cycling. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah, that's worth. That sounds like a mid-wipe thing that Iron Mace will do. Like they'll just be like, like you said, the gate closes and then opens back up after 5 seconds. That's
But
not bad.
yeah.
but to touch on your comment though about like people like saying, oh, the streamers are just PvP hungry, and whenever they can't get a kill, they're just mad that people ran away.
That doesn't impact streamers.
No, sometimes I'm just spawning in and I'm wanting to go to a red, and there are people there just camping it, and if they start to lose, they just have to leave. So they say they got a free chance to get kills because they just were there first. Like, that just sucks. That just feels bad. And then once they actually do lose, they get go again. I don't know. It's a little frustrating
True.
because I could be doing that, and I would have a much higher win rate if I played like that, and it would suck for everybody else involved. But that's
Yeah.
not fun for anybody.
Right.
I
Speaking
think
of
it would
things
be weird
that's
to point that one to streamers. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good, man.
but-
Felt like there's a good segue to the Druid class there because that reminded me a lot about the main gripe with Druid. Druid has got a pretty significant change. I have not played it since
a
they
nerf.
added
That's great.
It is
change.
a nerf.
Right.
It's a nerf for sure. It's a huge nerf.
It's a balancing change for bad druids who used to just spam cycle, but I see
It's a
no
nerf.
change when I
It's
fight
a
a good
nerf.
druid, man.
It's a
Yeah.
nerf. But like,
It's a
doesn't mean this is
massive
just as a nerf doesn't mean it's not good.
Right.
But
It was
so
also a nerf for good druids. It was a nerf for any druid.
so how exactly like is the nerf worded? It's they have
Druids
You have spell
have
charges for
4
your
stacks
shapeshifts.
of transformation, and every time you shift, you lose a stack, and every 6 seconds
Just
you get a stack back.
how backstep functions with charges, for
Yes.
example. It's the
Or
same concept.
or
So
stealth.
I've heard Nate and Anugi both like talk about it and like this. Now like when they are committing and going in for a kill, they are like committed to going for the kill. And they can't just
Yeah.
like constantly go in. Oh, it didn't work out, reset. Okay, I'll try again. Go in. Okay, it didn't work out, I'm gonna reset. Like when they are there is consequences for their actions. Like if they want to play aggressive, they are spending a resource and they have to use those resources
Yep.
wisely. I
Mhm.
think it's actually a really good change. I think it actually makes the Druid class way more balanced, way
Yep.
more skill expressive, and like the players that are smart with their resources will excel, and the people that were just abusing cheesy mechanics are going to, die more often, which they should. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. It was
Yep.
definitely the right step. Now, in the gear brackets where I'm fighting druids at like fucking 500 plus gear score, or I'm running divine protection, smite, and I'm actually battling with a bear druid, that lasts quite long enough. They do get a full reset if they don't commit. They usually commit because I'm a fucking cleric and they think they can win that one and they stay in the fight. But I still have them reset all the time. I still have them jump in, fight with me, wait cooldowns out, jump out and reset. It's just way less like it's more of the good druids that are actually getting away, and I'm conking the shit out of the bad druids. I'm absolutely beating them down now. I'm trading with them. They're committed. They're dead. It's way more impactful for the bad ones. But I've seen like Nate's going around with almost no. I don't see him slowing down at all.
Right.
The other changes, I think that was part of it, and like segueing through because this is another druid change. The life bloom was added as a kind of like when they nerfed Sanctuary, they brought it back because they knew what they were going to do with Druid was going to be a big healing change. And I think they're leaning more into heavily basing support classes like in full support, which is why they made sure to take out the shape shifting portion of the Druid's kit when enabling Life Bloom and everything.
That was a huge W. Like we got a brand new build that also drastically changes the class makeup for one
Yeah.
perk basically. That was and it doesn't really need that much testing or fixing. That was a fucking
Yeah.
huge W.
It
Agreed.
definitely needs some adjustments in the arena, but like I think that's where we're going with the game in the future. And it's weird because we've had the Bard class that was launched as a mobile battery of all resources to keep the fights moving. They said, we don't want this infinite resource generation to continue. We want to have fights slower. They took away most of the Bard's slowness, and then we got Druid running around, and then we got Sorcerer with infinite sustainability. And so now we're going back in the direction where they said we didn't want to go. So I'm kind of confused
Well,
on that one from a
in-
design
in
standpoint.
Respect to that, with the new Warlock stripping buffs and Purge Shot.
Yes,
and
they are
Ranger,
adding counterplay mechanics that we should have had
That-
a long time ago to things that they're incorporating now.
Sure, but we got two at the same time, and they're both working and totally changing up the compositions of the player base. So now we finally have the anti-counter buff ball, and both classes are effective with it. It would be easy to. A big suggestion I heard in my chat today was make clerics purify. It's not called Purify Undead
They've been
anymore.
saying that.
It's
They've been
just
saying
called Purify, and it still kills undead
It's
and it
Mass
strips
Dispel.
buffs. Mass Dispel.
Yeah.
I think it should
they-
even strip friendly buffs, and now you have like a whole other weird comp
Perfect.
you can do that's just 3 DPS that don't rely on buffs very much.
You purge first and then you buff. It's not hard to compensate or
yeah,
counter
that
that,
as
but
well.
like the idea is that
For interesting
we
changes.
asked, dude, like I've been asking for Bless to get +2 all since like a fucking year ago, man. We're not going to get that shit for another 2, like it seems like they move really slow on particular decisions. But I do think, like you said, they introduced the hammer and they introduced well, not the hammer. They introduced the scissors and then they introduced the rock at the same time, and people are kind of playing with it between spell predation, purge shot, buff spamming, and buff ball. But I don't know if everybody's noticing the same. I'm noticing that there is Druid Barb. That is kind of the meta for 2s, is what I'm seeing a lot. And I'm seeing the same in 3s is Druid Barb Wiz. It's like buff ball with Druid now instead. That's like the only difference.
Yep.
I'm not really noticing that too much. I'm seeing a lot of druids, but I think druids very much so getting hammered because there's a bunch of warlocks. I think healing druid just like gets destroyed by warlock right now, and I think the druids are catching on, and people are going back towards cleric. And I think, but then also they're not buffing barbarians in duos. It's if they're playing a healing druid comp, it's healing druid plus buff ball plate lock. Like that's like the go-to best in slot like 2's comp right now, because you're playing a buff ball lock that could also strip enemy buffs. It's like it's
and
crazy
has
strong.
+5 all.
And it has
natively.
+5 all. Like
Right.
what were
The
they,
+5 all is
what were we
just
thinking? Yeah.
insane. But so bad, just to add to your point, not only did they introduce those two things, but Fighter got legitimate buffs to reflect and other abilities that made other fighter builds viable
A
too.
lot of other builds.
Yeah. So that
And
that
so-
was really, really huge.
Part of it, I think, is the slight or maybe even major moving of the milestones. Like chat right now saying any PvE only ability is useless. There was a time in the playtests and maybe like the very early seasons where people were using the PvE abilities to learn to boss, and sometimes we can still do that.
Yeah.
And now people are very good at the game. Game knowledge is high, PvP is high, and competition is high. And so possibly there was a time when Iron Mace thought it would be more dungeon crawling and less PvP focused. And so now we're kind of trying to fix that with like randomized dungeons and all these other things. So I think we're going in the right direction. And like I always say, the Iron Mace team went from like 9 to 90. And we've seen more changes this season across builds, buffs, nerfs, balancing, like dungeon. I think we're like really, really on track for a good game world. Like this time next year, I think let's say season 8 is going to be wildly different than it is today.
Yep.
I kind of glossed over it because of the druid thing, but just like to touch back on like the healing druid, the 10 spell healing druid, I actually think it's actually very good for the game and very good for the meta. In like 3s and 2s specifically, there are way more viable team comps now. Now that there's more than one viable support option, that is great. Like now these team comps are very varied. Like you have cleric buff ball comps, you have druid healing comps, you have double healing comps, you have double range bard. Like there's a lot of different compositions and trios right now. Obviously, there's some outliers that are much stronger than others, and some that are borderline OP. But I feel like there's been a much bigger variance in team comps, and it's been way more, I don't know, fresh. Let's say use the word fresh. There's a lot of variance and a lot of interesting things going on.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're not complaining about Ranger, and we're not complaining
Oh
about
no,
Rogue.
we can't. No.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about windlasses.
Now that you brought it up, now that you brought it up.
Wait. I'm not ready to segue yet. I want to say in relation to 10 spell druid. Also, I think SDF has already confirmed or at least idealized a couple new forms for druid, which was
Penguin,
ape, right? They said ape. And then he was like thinking about spider, and we don't need to go over all of them. I'm just saying now we have 10 spell druid or on the way to a 10 spell druid, and behind that probably like let's say next
druid is what you're
10,
saying.
And transform druid is also a very interesting idea, and especially for solos. It's just I don't know. I play druid now for any kind of questing or any kind of normals activity because it's just a fun class that's kind of balanced now. I would say. W. Okay, go ahead with the ranger complaints.
Oh fuck rangers! Holy shit!
Nah, rangers are anybody that plays ranger, but also
crossbow ranger specifically. I think
crossbow is very much just a shit fest.
Yeah, getting one shot, it feels really bad, and this is like an unintended thing, but with like the purge shot unironically like made the one shot winless build so much stronger because now they just like purge shot if you have a prop pot on or any kind of buff, they're just doing 15 more true to you. So like you're definitely getting one shot by winless now, which is like probably not the intended mechanic of purge shot, and it's just getting one shot sucks. It will never feel good. I'm sorry.
Nope.
Amen. What about Rogue?
I feel like I solved the windless problem. Just real quick before we switch it over, I wanted to get the windless pens. So why does it do so much damage when you could just shift? Like, let's say you get hit with a windless to the head, and instead of getting one tap for 140 of your life, it does 80 damage with a like 50 damage bleed that ticks over 10 seconds. Because it's a fucking penetrating bolt, I feel like it would be okay to apply a bleed and kind of split the damage variation rather than just immediately killing people all of the time.
Yeah,
that would also prevent you from being like double windless and immediately erased. It would just apply the same bleed a second, like it would give you the opportunity to counterplay in some fucking format, or maybe even like drink a potion or remove the buff, or use a real bandage that removes bleeds, or there's more stuff to add to it. But just getting one tap should never be the play.
Agreed.
Head-eyes.
Yeah.
One less.
Yeah, it's funny, like head eyes, but like even when I'm getting shot in the chest, I'm dying. So like, doesn't
Solar
feel good.
died. We were fighting I can't remember. It's John, you said?
John the
John
boat.
the
The
boat?
windlass. Yeah, whoever uses the windlass and is like Xiao Zin the third, like the unique windlass combo.
I think that's Taco.
Taco?
Yeah,
Someone
I
said it
think
was Taco. That was the fight we had. He got full 65% PDR and like 160, 170 life, and he almost gets completely one-tapped by a chest shot with windlass. So maybe big burst damage should be spread out. I like the idea of not getting one-tapped in any video game.
Correct.
So what I'm hearing is that when we get the Maelstrom cluster with the Shipgrave map, you're thinking we shouldn't have one-shot flintlock rifles?
Oh,
One
dude.
shot?
Yeah,
Nothing.
it should actually do more damage than a windlass, but less accurate. You gotta pick it up and you gotta put
Sounds
the thing
awful,
in
no.
there and pour the shit in there and
Fuck
then bring the rifle to your
No, because
shoulder
we're
and
getting
it's kinda-
Artificer and we're going to be getting all these
Yeah, we
guns.
get
I mean,
these
and-
guns.
I'm
stuff,
cool.
but
I'm
go
cool
look
with
closer to
rifles
Darktown.
and blunderbuss, but like they should one shot. I'm sorry.
cannon.
On the segment of stuff that they
Alright.
are adding, I liked that there was some data mine things about potions like a stinky cloud, or like I think the consumable
Sunburst.
area is significantly underdeveloped
Yeah.
and completely like we should be having counters to a lot of these things. An example would be a stone skin potion to counter the fucking windlass. Instead of drinking a prot pot, you drink a stone skin. The next hit is reduced by 50%. One hit. That's
What?
it. Yeah. It's called a stone skin
50%?
potion.
That's
Yes,
Wow.
for
how you
one
would just
hit.
pop that every time.
Yeah.
You
Make
just
it
for one
projectile.
hit,
Make it
your hand
projectile
now comes
only.
out, and you are now
projectile
drinking
only,
a
okay.
fucking potion.
So-
Yeah, you can do
Yeah,
this in a lot of
projectile
different ways.
only. That
There is
sounds-
so
So
many.
the problem
One
is
hit.
one. Yeah, it's still very strong. But
I'm not
the
saying
point
it's
is
not strong. That's the
when
whole
you
point.
have very strong consumables like this, now all of a sudden the bar is set that now you need to bring all of these really
yeah,
strong
or you
consumables into
don't
the raid,
win.
or you don't win, and then that sucks for most
Mm-hmm.
people. And then even if you are
Troll's
the people
Blood.
bringing those in, yeah, Troll Blood's not good either. Also, but Troll's Blood is way less impactful than I would say a
Yes.
stone skin pot. You need
Agreed.
to be alive
Right.
for a long amount of time to get the value out of a
Or play Warlock.
Warlock has other
Iron
problems.
Blast.
The fact that it scales off healing is the problem. Troll Blood shouldn't scale. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Oh, I didn't know it scales off MH.
Yeah, it's fucking
Yeah,
broken.
and it scales
Oh,
off
man,
buff
that's way
duration,
better than I
dude.
thought it
I was at
was.
like a 70% buff duration kit. My Trolls Blood lasts like 2 fucking minutes. Good luck killing me.
Yeah, but
The
going
whole
along
point is a
with that-
consumable isn't going to be
Yeah.
super expensive, but the point is to counter that. Projectile reduction, like we have an entire area of expanded use that we could utilize, like anti-stuff, like with the Sunblast or whatever, the fucking rogue revealing potions. There are so many different avenues that we could incorporate here rather than doing major class tweaks before we explore it. I think that was what they were trying to do when they were not touching traps. Is they were going to make like a free action potion consumable or something. They always talk about how they're going to be adding different mechanics like that, but they
Right.
haven't done it yet. And then they balance the game instead, and then we get those mechanics to be fixed, and it seems weird. Like you can't balance one with the anticipation of the other coming out in the couple of months or weeks. You just do the other part of it, because now you have two problems and you're making more work for yourself.
Like I said, I think there is like an avenue you could go with like some cool consumables. I think Dungeon Board had some really cool consumable potions.
Yeah, like Thunder Flasks and the
Yes,
Wall
Yeah.
Flasks.
I
Those
will
are really
just say
cool.
the issue is that it transforms the meta to be every single character has to have like 12 potions of three sunburst, 3 ghost
Nothing
essence,
changes.
3
Everybody
tar,
brings pots.
3 stinky stick. Yes, but now we also have to bring prods because now you have a consumable you drink for a self buff, then you throw something to debuff them. And I'm not saying it's bad, but in Dungeonborn, in a way, it was bad because it was consistent. Like everyone's just throwing shit non-fucking stop, and that was kind of cool. And so I'm just saying there is a certain aspect of the game where it starts to feel like too much of a chore to have to bring 3 of each prod, 3 invis, 3 sunburst, 3, like you have your inventory
already
is full
Potion
of
Wars.
shit. Yeah, but now we're just adding more.
Yeah,
How much
yeah.
shit do we have to fucking bring to play
Just
the
because
game?
something is wrong doesn't mean we should add more of something that's wrong.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
it wrong, or is it like that's
But
the other
I
dynamic
do
we have
like
to look
it,
at?
and I talked about this a lot in my update video with like things that it should come to test server first. It's interesting that no matter what you bring, someone can kill you that has nothing, and then they're like, look at all the shit they brought. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever have those runs where you have like 2 potion stacks and 2 bandages, and you kill someone and they have troll's blood, 9 lockpicks, like 3 of each
So
prot,
Yep.
and you're like, sweet, I just
And
made
they
5,000 in
got me tons of
consumables.
shit.
I've
Yeah.
always thought you should have a set amount of things that you could bring into the dungeon. But
Yep.
it shouldn't be your inventory. It should be a separate thing, like a consumable inventory.
Yeah, like the bottom space
it,
underneath your
No.
character
Yes.
it would
inventory.
normally be your tool belt, but there's not enough room in the tool belt because it's not enough
Yeah.
for some classes. But point being is like you should have to like think and choose what you're bringing to the dungeon. Okay, I have 10 slots. I'm gonna bring in 2 stacks of healing pots, 4 stacks of
I got it.
bandages, a thing of lock picks, maybe some prots. Ooh, I'm feeling
Utility
spicy.
only
I'll bring
gear score.
sure something. That's
Oh,
not a
that's
bad
not
issue.
bad. That's actually
Utility
really good.
only gear score would be
That's
fucking
really
huge. You
fucking
could
good,
build your
dude.
gear score and then you could build your utility
You
up
can
to
only have
50
100
points.
a 50 or
Yes.
100.
That's
Yeah,
actually a good idea.
That's a really
Wait,
good idea.
that's
That's
a good idea.
fucking
You
huge.
just-
And it's
you
already
actually
on the
just solved
in-game
that.
systems, and the devs don't
Yep.
have to go through ass to create this. Please.
Okay, the
Yep.
only thing I'll say about that is that I do like that we determine our preparedness level, and it's a whole other feeling of like skill check and whatnot. And like I said, you could do that, right? If you're 50 or 100 points, everyone brings like whatever the fuck they think is necessary. But there is something really awesome about killing someone that has 3 of everything, and like
Mhm.
their inventory is 10,000. Like, it doesn't matter what items. Wow, time to take blue. Especially if they don't use any of it.
Yeah, but
Like,
even with that gear score like that's still you still bring a decent amount of stuff in. Like you still bring in
true.
pots and a
Mhm.
troll's blood. But like point being is like you're not bringing 3 trolls blood, an entire row of invisibility pots that are all epic because you're
26 throwing knives.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah a billion.
Somebody had a
frannies.
bad day yesterday, and I just want to see if they're still there. All the invisibility potions that were purple were purchased last
I hope
night.
they
I think
vended
it,
them.
no, they're
Fucking
back.
pray.
They're back, dude. Somebody bought every single one, and I think it's after Solar and Vizpot played this Warlock Bard combo or Warlock Ranger. That just, I'm pretty sure that right after that match, that squad just went out and bought every single purple prot pot because that was fucking hilarious. But that was crazy. I do agree though. The consumable change would be super beneficial. Having
Well-
it like limited would kind of be what.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna just like it might not be the best for everybody, but it
Mm.
is the best in the long run. And if it's in the under gear scored bracket, it'd be nicer to kind of put that in there and allow people to expand on what consumables they bring if they think that they're going to have like a particular low point in their combat with another class. Like maybe they have cleanse potions now, and you think you're going to run against a warlock, and you know you're going to get fucking dotted 8 times, and you pop that cleanse pot. Now you're okay. There's just like avenues to fill in the gaps into what you think you're fighting versus what you think your low points are strength wise. I think it'd be cool. Holy water, yeah. There's tons of different dynamics.
Mhm. It's very esports, and I will say compared to Dungeonborn, our game is way better developed, and there is a use time and a movement speed penalty for like anything that we do. Even rotating your utility belt is different than Dungeonborn, and so I do like you said, like you get cursed, and so you go to drink like something, but the warlock is better than you, and they just recurse you the second you're done, and you just got now,
Yeah.
especially because Curse of Pain does an initial burst of damage, and so if you remove the curse yourself, you're opening yourself up to that burst damage again, and so like that part is really cool. But I do think that there is like a weird esports element to it, and Iron Mace will have to balance it. Hopefully, we get it on the test server. But for those who don't know, the new potions are Ghost Dust Pouch, which you throw and it reveals invisibility. There's Sunburst, which blinds your enemies. There's Tar, I think it is, which is like an AoE slow, and we already have Tar in the game, so you know what that would be like.
Right.
And then
That sounds like it's gonna be toxic.
but like
Yep.
it's
Oh, dude,
toxic,
yeah.
but the esports and the competitive element is that if they go to throw a tar at you, you jump in 180 and you throw a tar at them, and now you're back on the same place you were already at, and both of you have wasted a tar potion. So like there is really cool elements where it does work, and it's an expense, and so it's kind of cool. I don't know.
And
There's
if
a
you
lot.
use it at the wrong point, then you don't have it up, or you're
Yeah.
trying to use it on somebody who's running through a door choke, then they can't get through the other side of the door, and you can riddle them full of arrows or fireball it. And
Now you poison off the doorway when the barbarian's through, and you try to 1v3.
yeah,
There's
rogue
a lot
comes
of cool
in, throw that
angles.
light flask out. I like the idea of counterplay mechanics being involved there, and I like the idea of limiting them because then you have to pick and choose.
Also, again, on the economic front, W is when we get fishing, hopefully a lot of this stuff that's craftable is like random monster loot drops, like rotten fluid will make like the poison potion or whatever. And so I like that element where you don't have to be good at combat in the game, but you can still be perfectly functional. Because there are players in our video game that are just mining, right, and like picking herbs and shit, and
No,
just
they're
selling them.
living the good life too. I envy.
Yeah,
envious them.
they are actually making big loot. Like it's crazy to me that you can go kill a fucking spider in normals and make 2,000, and kill a bat and get like 500 golden bat wings. Like
Go get
I
wolves.
think our economy is better than like most MMORPGs. Like you can do fucking anything and make a bunch of money.
Yeah, just go and kill a wolf, dude. 2K. Boom.
Yeah, but boom. You can get 3-in-1 rage. You guys see the picture on Reddit? The dude posted like a 3D a paint, like he hand drew paint, and it was like him getting 3 wolf pelts. It was like him as a frog, and he's like, "I got 3 pelts." It's like the most upvoted for that today. It's really funny.
Oh God.
We haven't talked about
Oh,
rogues yet.
Next.
Oh, rogues.
Oh,
Lead the way, Arcane. What about rogues?
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't have very significant gripes. Like, Invis is still too strong, but that's nothing new. I feel like overall, at least playing Sork, now that I have, God, the number one thing with Sorcerer that I wish they would give something similar to Cleric, having Wind Blast and Vortex to just get a slight knockback to get a rogue off of me is so freaking massive. And then when you add on, Sorcerer has a lot of options, right? When you have the lightning sphere, they'll still dive you now because it doesn't do nearly the damage that it did when it first released, rightfully so. But like having Vortex, having Wind Blast, having options to just create some space after they landmine me is crazy good. I don't feel like I'm auto dead. Whereas when I played Cleric, it was like, oh, I just got landmine, I'm dead. I had my book out, I'm dead. Like, sorry, skill issue. I didn't see the invisible person. Now, like, I don't feel like rogues are as much as a problem, but curious to see what you guys have to say.
Yeah, my sense of rogues has been pretty consistent. I don't think they are particularly OP or too strong, but I always say they are just the least fun thing to play against. Whenever I die to a rogue, I'm like, yeah, well, he got me. I couldn't see him or hear him, and he turned off my kit.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Guess I'll go next.
Yeah,
Or even
Cutthroat
some-
still sucks, but I'm only getting hit by Cutthroat like 1/3 of the time. So.
And even like when I see, like, say, use Trio as an example, and I see a team that has a rogue, and like I want to go fight that team. If I just ever lose line of sight of that rogue, now all of a sudden, even if that rogue could have disconnected from the game, and like went to the bathroom and been AFK, but since I don't have line of sight on him, me pushing this team is no longer an option because
Right.
he could just be anywhere and I could be dead. So like it just
to
creates
counterplay that, it's the same thing with a windless ranger, though. Like you just have to constantly know that you're never going to be able to go down a straight line towards the team you're fighting. So if like the existence of a windless ranger creates the distance and creates the frustration in a different way, but like the same overall effect, I think.
Yeah, but at least like for a ranger to kill me, like he has to have line of sight of me and I can see him. Whereas the rogue, if I lose line
And
of sight
there's
on
the
the rogue,
initiation. He has to hit the shot.
yeah, that too. But it just creates an atmosphere of like, okay, there's a rogue in this game. I know I can't see him right now, so that means he could be anywhere, and that sucks. And I now have anxiety. I have to go find a portal. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't like the feeling that rogues being in the game like makes. I don't know. I just always think stealth is a very bad mechanic. That's just my take.
The
I
invisibility
know.
thing is, I remember back in the playtest being like, "This is the stupidest thing ever to drink an invisibility potion and sit there 60 seconds worth of complete
Oh, yeah.
just
And if it's the same thing as rogue, it's like
Yeah.
the same problem. I think is true invis is just very unhealthy.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Soundless, invisible, almost guaranteed death sentence in a lot of scenarios. Especially solos. It's for me, Rogue is a fucking plague upon solos, and every like 2 wipes they get rebuffed to be essentially the strongest class in the game if they ambush you. And there's not a lot of counterplay involved with that. And most classes that can counterplay don't want to counterplay because it's fucking boring to spam Hydra every 10 feet.
Hmm.
And when you light orb and it doesn't reveal them, even though they're really close to it.
Oh,
Or it reveals them and they're at max move speed coming out of stealth, and they have 2
dude,
stacks of it. So like,
there's so many times where I died a rogue and wizard, and like there's some fucking mouth breather in chat. There's like, why don't you take light orb?
It's
I'm
light
like,
orb.
I'm like, bro, you have not seen the thousands of hours I played where I do light orb, right? And then the light orb doesn't reveal anybody, and I get
Doesn't
this
reveal them.
false, I get the false sense of security. I'm
Mhm.
okay, I light orbed, it's safe. Then I go, and there's a fucking.
It's
rogue
never
there.
safe, dude.
He's
It's
right
never
there. He's
safe.
in the corner, and you're like, why didn't it's the sun is in the room. But the truth is that Rogue was not great in trios, and it was really shitty in arena. And so, in an effect to raise the stakes, they gave them double stack and Viz and combined perks to make them much stronger in trios and arena. And the byproduct of that is that they are a literal fucking curse of Egypt and a plague upon the land of solos. And there's almost no counterplay. And if the rogue is geared and a good player, more than likely, if you don't know they're there, which is almost universally the case, you've died. Well, like almost no matter what class you are, you've died.
I
And
have had a lot of
that makes
success.
solos very dangerous and a lot of times unfun. Like Ken said, there's very little counterplay. Most fights that occur is line of sight, vision, counterplay, protection potions, moving, resetting, and that's a lot of fun. And that barely ever happens with Rogue. They're just inside of you. You're sour spotting. You've died. And if they're full statted, full geared, you're dead as fuck.
Yeah.
And so, it's hard. It's hard. And Iron Mace has said they don't care about solos as much. And in a way, that's
And
fair.
they shouldn't.
And
Yeah.
they shouldn't
Yeah, but
possibly.
it's not just a solos issue, bro. Like, it's the same thing in duos and like even in trios. Like I'm not gonna say that rogues are broken in trios by any means, but like just the environment that they create is just so miserable to play in. Whenever there's rogues in the game, I'm like, this game is at a lower quality than the game would be if there were no rogues in it.
Yeah.
And so, knowing what we know, that we're going to get Ghost Dust Essence, which is the powder you throw, it really is up to Iron Mace with the radius of that and the instantaneous effect. How far does the powder go and how long does it stay?
Right.
That, for sure, as an item, will change the way that invisibility potions and rogues operate. Universally, players will just throw that toward reds or blues or like a new room, depending on the cost. And so, as much as I hate to say it, it's kind of like it's an issue, but like we know there's a resolution coming, so like let's wait and see. I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think Rogue needs a rework. I think Hyde has to go and Rogue has to be a whole new identity. I've always said it should just be like the flanking class. It should have some kind of mobility. Maybe they should lean more into the creep, where like they are quiet, but like you can still see them. So like be mindful and like look for them. Or like I thought it'd be cool if they had some kind of perk that can make it so they could walk around mobs and not get aggro. So there could be a rogue player that's always looking for a flank. That could be cool.
Yeah.
But without using invisibility, like no invis.
Yeah,
Like,
that's good.
Yeah.
You do, like-
Utilizing game sense and other mechanics in order to approach the
Mhm.
game? No, just make them invisible. Fuck it.
open a
That's
door
too much.
quietly. Opening a
Too
door
much for the
quietly is
bads.
very strong. That
Yeah.
could be very good. Like,
Yep.
Creep now reduces your interaction sounds by 80%, and mobs do not aggro while crouching.
Yes, you can creep by mobs. That's really good.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's it.
All of a sudden now instead of just being this brain dead one shot assassin class, now you're playing fucking Metal Gear Solid or Hitman. You're just like
Right.
walking around,
Right.
Yeah.
blow dart a mob. He's stunned for fucking 5 seconds. You walk by him like, holy crap, that'd be sweet. That'd be so fun.
I have been having success against rogues. Like I don't normally die to them whenever I'm running DP and smite. Like they run up, they hit the cutthroat wears off in about a half a second. I pop DP, smite, and trade with them, but they just have to live long enough. Even like I fought a legendary Chris geared up Juice Man rogue who ambushed on me. I got to turn, jump. By the time my feet hit the ground, I had already gotten my cutthroat worn off, divine protection up, smite ready, and he's committed to the fight. So I just turn and trade. You might end up dying from the poison afterwards, but it's been a very successful build against them. But that's no spell cleric is pretty successful against anything that's not a ranged caster.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the strength of class, and I also feel like if the rogue, in my opinion, the best rogues will hold W and stay inside and on top of you the entire engage because they've already won as long as they do that. And my thing is that most rogues play scared and they give you space to do things. But if that rogue stays inside of you while you're jumping, theoretically he can hit you 2 or 3 times before cutthroat's up, and you cannot swing while you're pushing DP and smite. It's not
Right.
so like these hit you 3 to 5 times, and if he's geared, you're probably dead no matter what gear you have.
It was the
Like,
double
if he
stab from
has
the
3
Chris.
damage, bro. Like you're fucking deleted.
Yeah, the double
It's
stab
bad.
on that is
Yeah.
The double twist is what really brought me low. I still won the fight, but it was like I said, it was mostly just luck.
And then even if you do win, then you die to the poison afterwards anyway.
Yeah, and it feels
And
bad.
then,
Or like if he's a really good rogue, he hits you like let's say 4 times melee and then jumps sideways. And if he's good at aiming, hand crossbows and throwing daggers are really fucking good tools.
And they
They do a
keep the
lot of
poison
damage.
stacks applied, which is
Yep.
very huge.
And this is like the high end of rogue, so like it's hard to discuss. But I think most of us can agree that play solos. I've seen a huge trend. A lot of the solo players are moving to duos and trios because like half of the game are rogues and solos. Half the game are rogues again. And like I said, it happens like every 2 seasons. Like suddenly everyone's just a rogue. And in my opinion, it shouldn't. I'm with Ken. It shouldn't be like the best assassin class and like the highest mob DPS class. It's good at a lot of shit. So I don't know. We'll see.
The big issue now I'm having is in the duos, I'm getting double resourcefulness pickpocket rogues that are Q sniping into each other in every single lobby and just running around pickpocketing.
impossible. You can't Q2 the same class on team. And boss, come on.
Yeah.
That's not, you can't do that.
I just feel like either they need to make that bannable or do something about the Q sniping and that is a frustration that is just annoyance. Like, oh, we're risking it because we're queuing in randoms. Motherfucker, you're queuing at the same time with your boy toy on Discord. Don't act like you're doing something that you don't know what you're doing. You guys are gonna get into a
if you
lobby
don't
and
get
run
him on a
straight to
team, you
blues.
run to the blue. Yeah, it's like,
Give me a fucking break.
Yep. Well, boys, we're
It just shouldn't
about
be a thing.
hour 37 in. Should we flip over to Q&A?
Yeah, this has been a good pod, boys.
Do it.
yeah, chat, give us some questions. We'll just jive until then.
Who's got Qs? Because we have A's.
Yeah, so while we're
I
waiting,
don't
let's
think we have A's, but
let's take a page out of Soma's book and say if you were granted SDF powers right now and you had the ability to change or create one thing in the game, it could be something we already talked about. What would you create next? Or update or change?
I'm gonna do a manifold of things that are all within one context. Is that I would like to create guilds that can house 30 people, and we have guild quests and guild achievements and a shared guild stash within a guild hideout that you can customize and put trophies in and hunting loot like the Lich's Head, which are things we can buy on the auction house. And within the confines of that, one time per month for 1 weekend, instead of arena, we have
Guild Wars.
the battleground. I'm not even going to say Guild Wars. It's a battleground that is 9 versus 9 with larger arena sizes than we currently have, but similarly built with mobs and like mirror
wheel.
matches or the wheel. And although it's primarily built around guilds, you can also queue as a 3-man. And so now you have 3 3-mans and 3 other 3-mans. And that creates, in my opinion, a brand new game mode that drastically increases the game, and it would be fun as fuck to watch. And now we have tournaments with that. We have this whole new system. And even if we don't get guilds or hideouts or any of the other shit, I think 9 versus 9 is a really good thing for this game to have.
I like it. Ken?
Yeah, I would love I would love just to touch on that. I would love some kind of larger, like, sized battles. I would love just to experiment and to see how it feels. Because I've always said I think this game was obviously designed for trios, but it would be kind of interesting to like mess around with quadra queue or pentaqueue or what. No, so bad said 9v9, 12v12, whatever it is. Like stuff like that could be really cool. And then to add guilds on top of that, I think this game. Why don't we have guilds? This game is obviously it's made for guild. It's supposed to be a social dungeon crawling goofy instanced MMO. Where the heck are my guilds at? Give me a shared stash tab.
We got sashes now. We didn't even talk
let's
about
not
the
make them
sashes.
small guilds.
Guild,
I don't
customized
want-
guild sashes.
I want to add in for a guild. I don't want it to be like a small 20 or 30 man thing. I want to have like an opportunity to invite like 100 people, like make it a big community thing, not just like invite my homies and like I want to get everybody in there. And I think it'd be cool instead of like purchasable stuff, an achievement system instead for the guild. If you get 100 kills on Lich together, you unlock that trophy to put in your hideout. I don't want it to be a purchase. I don't want you to save up money. I want it to be achievements. I want there to be guild achievements. 100 boss kills unlocks maybe even a fucking craft for the guild. That'd be really
Mm.
cool to make unique stuff with that sort of a
Yeah.
guild
Oh, and then you have
environment.
you'd have a unique sash if you do
So if
something
you get
together.
100, you all
Yeah.
have to be in the like at least a 2-man group or more, or even fucking
Yes.
solo. But like make sure that you have guildies, go kill the boss together. After that certain achievement unlocks, you get another craft for a cosmetic tunic that just happens to replace the robe of knowledge. Now, like all of your, like, or a skin. It could be a custom skin for a particular piece of gear.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to actually change stats or be a valuable item. It could just look cool. You could fucking
Right.
put a pink recolor for it. Nobody cares. Just the idea of more cosmetics can be so expanded up, and you don't have to game break anything. You know,
And
like you don't have to work about balancing, just little stuff.
I think for Iron Mace, you have a multi-pronged approach. You have drops in the dungeon that can be bought for gold. Like I said, like the Lich's Head. Then we have achievement-based cosmetics. And I'm sorry, I like to pay Iron Mace. You should be able to buy shit for blue and red shards for your guild. Let's look at Elder Scrolls Online, which I think is a really good example. You can buy guild hideouts, or like at the upper echelons of, like, let's call it pay to win. You can buy a guild castle in Elder Scrolls Online for $99. Or you can just use in-game money to buy like a chateau. But for people who just want to fucking spend $100 and have a giant guild castle, which I would do for my guild,
Yeah,
that's
but
an option.
if it's cosmetic, for sure. I mean,
It's just
Sure.
cosmetics.
Yeah.
Like you can call it like pay to win, or like, like look to win, cosmetic to win, whatever the case is.
pay to flex, you know.
Pay to
Yeah,
flex.
pay to flex.
It's just an option, and there are a lot of things you could buy for shards. And now you have like the art team who get to work on that all season because they know it's going to be worth their time to do so. We have free. Now we have seasonal achievements for the guild, right? Like I talked about earlier, we have the adventure rank system with rewards. In my opinion, eventually the arena should have a separate award track that gives you like little shit that's similar to adventure rank, but like maybe you don't give a fuck about adventure rank this season, you don't care about demigod, you play arena. And then we have a guild track, and the guild has like a couple little things. And dude, all this stuff is so easy, I think, for Iron Mace to capitalize on. This is
Agreed.
a battle pass territory, or like blue or red shard territory, and free stuff.
I dig it.
I'm all about it.
Maybe
Leaderboards.
someday.
Did we get any questions from the chat?
I should probably
Mostly
read
just the SDF stuff. Fog of War should be in normals. It's fine. Like Fog of War is totally fine. I just think it should be a little bit bigger.
Yep.
That's all. Like you should definitely, not like the whole module, but like it could stand to be like 50% bigger on the reveal.
Yep.
Or
agreed.
if you've seen a certain amount of the module, it could self reveal the entire module.
I mean, who needs? It doesn't help to reveal the rest of that module.
I also think when you're playing in a team, you should see what your teammates have discovered.
Yeah, that's an annoyance. That's like, oh, okay, which way did you go? Or just show your
Mhm.
team's minimap icon.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like that.
I also like the idea that my chat brought up, and probably other people's chat, the idea of map fragments. Like if you kill a mummy and you loot it, you get a map fragment and it unlocks 10% of the map at random.
Yep. Ryan had a good idea that if you kill a sub boss, there is a X percentage chance to find basically like a homing beacon to where the actual boss is on.
Oh, dude,
map.
Yeah, I
W.
like that a lot. Yeah,
That's a
it'd be great.
W. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now you're just farming sub bosses though. Like you're spawning.
Well, that's
and
cool.
Yeah, but that's
going-
good.
We have incentive to kill sub bosses.
Yes, and now there's PvP at the sub bosses.
Holy
Yeah.
crap!
We've
It's a
talked
hotspot.
about sub bosses getting stuff for so fucking long, and they
Start
get
there.
nothing.
They get gold keys though. And they're worth a shitload of
One
AP.
sub boss gets gold keys.
Right.
Berserkers
Yeah,
and
yeah, but
Centaurs
now
get
but
50
now the
AP.
Lich has a scrying orb, so like
Mhm.
yippee.
Don't worry, maybe we'll get the Banshee Sonnet, which we can do nothing with.
No, that's a bard artifact. Just wait.
A Bartifact.
Boom.
Ooh,
If the sonnet is in your inventory, buff duration plus 10%.
there
Would
you
be
go.
cool.
Yeah, I like it.
That's good. That's actually good for a shitload of classes, not even just bard.
Ken, if you've got SDF powers, what's the next thing you're creating, updating, or changing?
Oh, I am leaning into the arena. I think arena has been one of the biggest fails I've in like a long time. And not because it's bad, because it's still very fun to play arena, but like it's very fun in despite all of the awful features that are in arena. Mobs suck, the maps suck, team comps suck. It's just like a shit show. And even with all these awful things, it's just fun to get in there in PvP. And I
Yeah.
really like it. If you just have good equalized maps without mobs in them, and then you have weekly arena tournaments, just like 64 team bracket, just it would just be so fun. They could do so much with arena that it's so much missed potential, and it's very frustrating to like sit here and see how bad it is and how good it could be. And even despite of how bad it is, I'm still playing every fucking week because it's just fun to fight in this game. But yeah, they got to
I have
just
a lot to expand upon
oh
exactly what you just said.
please go,
Because I can point out a lot of the flaws with their decision making that bothers the ever loving shit out of me in how they're handling arena. And I think it's going to kill the arena before it gets a chance to take off because, like you said, that is what we need to focus on, I think, because it's really easy content, really easy replayability. A lot of people enjoy it. But what they're doing is the completely most terrible approach to arena that I've ever seen. And I'm going to explain why. If you're going to yell at me, please give me a moment. The arena is a PvP battleground designed for, at the very base, fighting each other. When they took the mobs out, it was great. But the maps are the biggest issue. They're giving us maps that they admittedly know suck. They're just basically like, here, make these maps better. They're giving us dungeon modules that are being turned into arena maps, which is problem number one. Do not take a dungeon module that is designed for the exploration aspect of the dungeon and just force it into a PvP shaped hole. That's a complete screw up on both sides. You're ruining the arena and you're going to ruin the dungeon, and you're going to kill off the players by doing that. If you are balancing modules just to be PvP centric, that is the wrong approach. Those are dungeon modules, and they should stay as such and be made on a design expansion to be a cool and explorable place, not just a cool place to fight people.
holy shit,
That's just the
rare
wrong
end boss
take.
W, rare end boss
It's just
W.
such a
Holy shit.
wrong place to be doing it. And the way they're doing it makes me even more angry because it feels like I'm being an unpaid intern to be shoveled these maps constantly so that they can just make them better based on the data that I'm giving them instead of using the arena as my fun release time at the end of the week where I can enjoy the game. So, like, you're getting twofold losses. You're getting the arena maps, which are dog shit modules, instead of just being balanced, and then they're getting balanced and put back into the dungeon as a shitty arena map. So you're losing on two fronts. And it's driving me nuts that I have to sit there and go through these maps and get mad every week because I'm being an unpaid intern to test this nonsense level so that they can make it into a more nonsense level and put it back into the dungeon.
And the worst part is every week you're gonna do it because arena is just a fun
I'm
concept.
ready in my kit right now. I'm sitting there and my screen is fully juiced up. I have both kits ready to push the dungeon. But it just drives me nuts because it's like their entire philosophy at the very base floor for what they're doing in arena is going to be what kills the arena and conversely hurts the dungeon. So please, Iron Mace, take this into consideration. Give us asymmetrical arena maps that we can PvP on and have a good time.
We've
And
had
then
them.
go.
There are
We did. And they took them away and gave us. I don't want to get into it as much as I can because I'm so frustrated with them being like, oh, yes, we see you guys have enjoyed these maps. Goodbye to them.
4 elevator Goblin Cave is the perfect arena map.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same with the ice caves. I get that there's the big guy in the middle, but we know what the players want and you know what you're giving us, and what you're going to get out of it is not going to benefit either the arena or the dungeon. So please just give us the good modules, keep the bad ones out. As we play through the dungeon, you can fix them based on the dungeon feedback. But to fix them based on arena feedback and then put them back into the dungeon is the entirely wrong lens they're looking for.
I
Sorry,
don't
that
play
was
arena. I just want to say thank you to you guys. It sounds like a tough time to have to test
You would love arena. You would
in
love
early
it so bad.
access.
You
Yeah,
would have
but
such a
thank
good time.
God that you guys are testing this every season. So once they have arena rewards, I'll just get to play balance things. So thank you for being an alpha tester and boss.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you for alpha testing the solo queue with all these rogues. Like you're doing the
Yeah.
real work out there.
Yep.
Holy crap!
I'm a trios player. I've been playing with Jay and a bunch of other people. When I play solos now, I'm either geared to the fucking teeth because it's the only way to play, or I go in absolute boredom and I just have fun and listen to music. There's
Mhm.
no middle ground anymore. If you're in like 1 or 2K in gear, you're dead. You're fucking dead, dude.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. That's why I've been running those Manosphere Demon's Glee fighters yesterday, all day, all fucking day, man. Oh, it's good. I don't even loot. I don't care to make money. I just want to kill people, and that fucking shit rolls people.
Rapier is just a fun weapon to use. It's just a very satisfying weapon.
Yeah.
And the Glee is just broken because magic damage is OP. Can you
Never
imagine if
enjoyed it.
genetically?
Permanent smite. It's permanent smite. I went and I hit the dummy. It does more damage than fucking smite.
And
Good for
boss, if you're not tweaking arena, what's your SDF power creation?
I want more people to have artifacts. I want more people to have high tier weaponry. And to do that, like we've talked about map events, we've talked about sub bosses dropping little fragments of stuff to reveal the map. Why not give them a small chance to drop a piece of an artifact? Something that you could take to a vendor, something that you could take to an NPC and turn it in to get a either specific artifact or just build one. So you can actually have people that actually are using these items, bringing them into the game, and it creates hotspots on the map for people to go to sub bosses, and it's just improving the flow of everything. And now when I kill a squad that's killed them and I loot the shard of a pulverizing prayer, oh my god, that's my third piece. That's all I need. I just got a PP.
fucking huh? What? Boss?
What?
Okay. Yeah. No, that sounds awesome. Actually, yeah, assemble
That's-
as
these are good
get
ideas,
artifact,
yeah.
yeah. And boss is on one today. Holy crap! And
Yeah,
boss
these
like
are-
read. And boss
I
read the
haven't
comment from
eaten.
the last podcast, and he's like, "I am
Yeah,
turning.
True,
I'm
dude.
turning the corner." Holy
Gotta be
shit!
Dude,
careful
I
with those
enjoyed those
takes.
comments. I'm not gonna lie. I don't.
Can I just onto that? I don't want specific artifact pieces. I just want pieces of power or whatever. And because
A fragment
now
of power. Call it
fragment of
whatever you
power,
want.
I like fragment of power is awesome. And we have a vendor, and it randomly rolls you. Let's say you need 10. Let's just call it 10 for now. You need 10 fragments of power, and it randomly rolls an artifact. You could get a stinky stick. And so for me, another cool part, guys, I love the fucking marketplace. I can't help it.
Mint them. Make it
You
minted.
can buy fragments of power, and the going price is 20K each.
Here we
And
go.
so
We
you
now we
pay-
ru- now
you
we ruined the
pay
idea with capitalism.
200K, and you roll a fragment of power, and you get a stinky stick. You just lost 150K. You suck. I love
You
that
already
shit.
have that. It's called skull keys, bro. We already have those. Sorry.
Yeah, everything should keep being like that because stupid people like Sparky Kawa will buy 20 of those for 100,000 each, and he'll go get dog shit. I love it. Let's keep doing it. Please keep buying my school keys for 100K. They're worth it, I swear.
Holy crap! They are
They're
worth it.
worth it. I swear.
Yep. Buy my gold keys as well. 20,000. That's easy. You'll get an artifact. Sure.
Are they at
Sometime.
20K? Man, I sold
20,000.
mine at 13.
18,000 right
Wait,
now. On their way
Hold
up.
on. What is 20K? What are we talking about?
Gold keys.
Golden
Like,
keys. They're 18,000 this
yeah.
morning.
What?
They're
Yeah.
17K now, but yeah, they have been
It
steadily
fluctuates,
climbing.
but like it climbs. There was one earlier for 15.4, and the next closest one was 17. Like some people are just stupid.
I mean, some people. You
They
think that
don't
guy
want to
probably.
make money.
They probably sold it like 3 days earlier. He's like, "Oh yeah, they're like 15K 3 days ago. They're probably still that. Didn't check. Just put it up for 15K."
Oh god, I've seen those
I
before.
couldn't
Yeah.
buy it fast enough. Someone else beat me. I was like, that was a free like 3,000.
Someone in chat picking up for
Yeah.
like 157 gold because they forgot several zeros.
Oh yeah.
I've done that. We've all done that though.
Mhm.
I've never done that,
Ken buys.
I've never
shit for,
snatched
like,
one up.
100
Ken-
extra price.
dude. Twice in the same wipe, bro. It was like 10
Twice in the same week.
It was the same week.
Oh, also, this morning, it's funny that you mentioned the invisible. I forgot. This morning,
Ooh.
somebody bought all the luck potions. There were literally 0 on the auction house, and a lot of
They're
times when I go to buy them, I just buy the top one. I actually have screenshots from my Discord of like one of my mods selling a luck potion for 10,000. That's a W, dude. 100x stonks. And all the time when I want one, I just go in there and I just buy the top one. I'm like talking to chat and shit. That's how you get streamers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're just
Free
like, trying to be
money.
fast, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I got
God, I
myself.
hope that never happens to me.
See, now I just don't have enough gold to buy the 10K invis. As long as I only have 5K in the bank, like
Smart,
I can never be tricked.
This transaction has failed.
Now, is that
Awesome.
better than being like me and having 5 gold coin chests?
See, now
I
I'm
doubt it.
you know, I go to buy the 10K pot, my card declines, like it's all good.
I buy it and it's just 10 out of my 50. I'm like, oops.
Another day at the office.
Yeah.
What about
Alright,
you, Arcane?
So
Going
for
down the
me,
line.
I think I'm gonna do the easy answer. I would just like to see some form of training and progression actually show up in the game.
Whoa!
I
like for
know.
new players, or come on, bro, you freak.
I know.
Multi-class?
If that takes no, not multi-class. If that takes the form of subclassing, fine. But anything that promotes development of your character and an actual identity which I mean, guess ultimately it is kind of developing a subclass, but holy cow, that that would be for me like the next big thing that they could do in the game. I think guilds would be huge. I love the idea of having like if there's something short term they could do, it should be like the equivalent of a hideout. It should be my room, my space, whatever they're going to call it. Probably not my space, but yeah, man, like I hate that at some point in every wipe, you feel like, all right, well, questing scratches the itch for some people for a little while, and it is a means to an end, and it is you get a little dopamine from completing quests. But I think it this game is so primed, and you guys have hinted all around this, and we've talked about it explicitly. Like it can be a survival, looter, extraction, hardcore instance-based game and still have all of the fun shit that MMOs have to round it out and make it glorious. Like a lot, not all, but a lot of the same things that MMOs have. And we just haven't really scratched the surface. And I think the My Room would be huge, but I would give up pretty much if I had to pick my one SDF power, it would be like, let's get the freaking training in there. Please.
Yeah, I've wanted skill trees for a long time, just like anything. Like that nature, just training. I don't know what you meant by
Yeah,
that
so
exactly.
yeah, effectively skill trees, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just like WoW style skill trees would go such a long way for like content too, right? Just having multiple build diversity in your class would be amazing. If I just had 3 different specs for every single class, if I had Frost Wizard, Light or Fire Wizard, Arcane Wizard, just like WoW, and then you could like kind of mix and match them, and maybe I'm Purifier today, or I'm playing Fire Frost hybrid, or I'm playing Arcane Frost. And stuff like that would be really cool. I
Yep.
really they talked about this so long ago, and I feel like they just abandoned skill trees. Have you heard anything from them in
Nothing.
any of the recent one pegs? Yeah.
I think
Nothing.
once the multi-classing came out and
Yeah.
they botched that, they never went back because I remember being in the betas and being like, dude, can you imagine what this game is going to be like in a year from now? We're going to have this entire tree. This says it's coming soon. It's an entire skill training
I
tree.
know.
Imagine focusing down on your talents and yeah.
I'm gonna hot take here, and I'm gonna say that any kind of tree or power play for your character that makes you more powerful over time or with more levels, should not be added to the game.
Dude, I don't even care if it's PvE only. You could make
Okay,
it
yeah, I'm for
PvE
that.
only at this
All
point,
right, I'm
and
back.
I would be
Yeah,
cool with it.
if it's like Paragon levels in Diablo, I think would be the
No,
simplest
no,
thing to
not
do
not
for us,
Paragon.
in the sense that it's like plus luck or like 0.01% of something, kind of like Tarkov, where like you have like a minute change over like a long period of time. But I don't know. I kind of, for me, it's interesting that once we level 15, we're at endgame. We've skipped like a huge portion of the MMORPG grind,
Yeah.
and we already have 3 builds. Like we know them, and inherently the game knowledge gets you there. We're like, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna play MH Warlock. I'm gonna play Life Drain Warlock. I'm gonna play fucking like buff stripping, 5 soul collecting Warlock. Those are 3 skill trees, and all you have to do is swap out 3 or 4 perks. So like almost feel like they should abandon that system. It's just a hot take. I
I
don't
mean,
know if we need trees anymore. The trees are within the class build, and we choose that with the perks and skills and spells.
I would give you more leniency if we didn't have things like holy water still sitting in the fucking bank, completely flushed out beyond variables. Like, we need to not go with that route. I think it'd be better if we, in your ideas, if we took the perk system and then like had perks that played off each other, kind of how Life Bloom disables the transformations for Druid, that would work out. But I still think we should definitely focus on a skill tree that has those perks and bonuses for your particular class to create something that allows you to go beyond just hitting level 15 and being done with the character.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
not saying that you don't have those variables and options to do. We're saying that there is no reward playing that character beyond 15.
Yeah.
And maybe
Right.
like every 5 levels, if maybe you take those fragments we talked about earlier and put them in the fucking reward tokens as a small chance. But there's no benefit to playing that character besides the level
I
going up.
agree with you. Also, I miss when reward tokens could give us artifacts. I actually, again, common and boss W. I would like, and maybe they'll do it later in the season. I want a return to form of top level bosses dropping artifacts and or school keys. because when there are more artifacts and keys in the economy, everyone's like a bit stronger and people get to buy things for cheaper. And I kind of like that. It is now that I use pulverizing, I just used pulverizing prayer for the first fucking time in my 10,000 hours of play, and I was like, this is awesome. This artifact is fun
It feels
and it
great too.
fucking destroys everything, especially bosses. Wow, it feels good. And that thing is
Can we
like
say we
700K,
have
bro. No one's buying that.
we have seen a lot more artifacts this season though compared to other
We
seasons.
have,
I will say there's
but
been way more artifact usage.
Right, but that changed with
part of that,
randomization, and Moss was right.
yes, part of that
Like,
at the
less
start was because
bosses
people could
dying now.
static sprint to the boss in Inferno and
Both of
farm them the
them.
fuck up.
And Crypt, you run to Crypt boss and then you run to Inferno boss, and we were getting mad keys and artifacts. And now, like, I'm gonna be
They
honest,
squeezed that
I
tube very
barely
small.
find either of those fuckers. Even on Druid, I'm like, where's the boss? I've explored 70% of this dungeon.
I just think, like I said, it's the timing. Iron Mace's timing on that stuff was a little bit weird, so we don't have proper impactful data to really run through. But I definitely agree that there is way more artifacts in the wipe, but I think that's because
there's
it's
more
the
money.
richest wipe.
It is the
by
richest
far
wipe.
the richest wipe
Yeah.
we've ever had.
Yeah.
Like we hidden played with all the drop rates from patch 68 until this. This was the fresh reset where 68 was at the beginning. It's part of the reason why I've been championing for the fucking gatekeeping on quests to just be flushed away. There's no point. You can load into a normals and leave with 4 or 5 legendary gear pieces, and you're going to tell me I have to wait 4 weeks to craft a purple armor? It just doesn't make sense anymore. I don't think it matters unless we're going to up the rewards and change the way the quest system works and maybe include some new quests that could unleash maybe take a purple and upgrade it to a legendary, or take a legendary and upgrade it to a unique and add a stat line and make it into an artifact weapon at the end of all of the quest lines. There's a lot they could expand upon with that.
And we will. I think, like you said with Holy Water, I think we've seen more changes to the dungeon and classes this season, and faster and better tweaks than ever before. And I think truly now that we have a 90-person team, we're going to see more focused updates and like actual changes. I think we might get one more randomization at the end of the season.
I think
And we'll
that's
What do you think they're
water
going to
map.
randomize next? What do you think? Would it be Ice Abyss? Or I think the Ice Abyss makes the most sense, but it's also probably the hardest because you have the Wyvern and it's in its own like enclosure and it's massive.
Whoa, hear me out, dude. Randomized arena, bro. Okay.
I think that's pretty much what we have, the way it feels.
Yeah, that's true. It's sad.
I think
Like, what are we
Terrence
gonna
talked
get?
about that, actually. I think he said they were going to try to just do all of Castle first, but Ruins is uniquely difficult. So
Is it though? Is it? Why?
Ruins has a lot of 3 layers, whereas most of the crypt is a 2-layer, and a lot of the extra, like the middle bridge room is literally 3 different heights itself. So like
Yeah.
interweaving that and the way they had to combine boss rooms, and you have to have
You're right.
like it's a lot more.
yeah, a lot more Z axis
Well,
to deal
actually,
with.
Yeah.
yeah, they'd have to figure it out. But they've shown that they can. Even in crypts, like the interconnectedness of a lot of the randomization is shit we never thought we would see. Where there's like sky bridges, new ladders, and like shit that's literally a wall. And I love the video on Reddit where the dude is trying to run, and another team pushes into the boss room, and it's like a fucking archway but no door. And he
Yep.
runs to the other
That
thing, and he
been that
opens
guy.
it, and it's actually a wall. He opens the door, and it's a
Yeah,
wall. He's like,
I've had
"And
that
then
happen. I could hear the bats on the other side of the
actually
room. I
awesome.
run open, I hit the
Yeah.
door, and it's a fucking wall in
It's a
front
wall,
of me.
dude, and that's actually kind of cool. It's
It
pretty
is.
different,
I don't
it's
hate
pretty
that.
fun.
I
Yeah.
hate that. I think that's good. I think because I think there's been a big thing where people running away from people are almost at an advantage. And if you're running away from a team and you haven't discovered what's in front of you, it should be risky. There should be a
Right.
risk. You should
Mhm.
be the chance that you run into a dead end, and that I think that's just part of the dungeon experience.
Yep.
Sure, it sucks for that guy, but like I think it's actually good for the game.
Agreed. Well, gents, did you get any interesting questions from your chats?
Here's one right here. What do you think of the idea of boss-specific armor pieces, spectral crown, lich robe, troll
already have that.
bracers,
We have
spectral
that.
armor? Well,
It's
I think
literally the crafted
more.
items.
well, I think it's more so talking about
more.
like unique armors, like instead of just unique weapons,
Yeah,
like unique armors. And
100%. I mean,
I don't
aren't
know.
we going to get that? Don't we have Warlord's armor shard or whatever? So that's gonna obviously be something. Like right now, Broken Blade makes the Grim Slayer,
Mhm.
so the armor fragment can be like, I don't know, something.
Will be some unique armors.
They could make
that
them
could be
really
cool.
more pronounced. You know, like Warlord's Broken Blade should definitely craft like a sword that looks really cool, like Warlords, and like maybe the Lich drops a fragment of the illusory and it makes it look really like his staff. There's just so many different ways you could incorporate cosmetics from either bosses or sub bosses.
And
And
this is
again, there's the
easy.
achievement system. They said they wanted to do more with the achievements as well, where you're like unlocking skins and things. Like I think it'd be really cool. Kill 1,000 giants, you unlock a loincloth, or just whatever.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
like
I like that.
small shit like that.
Mhm.
Kill 1,000 wraiths and you unlock a sickle skin for one of your weapons. Just dumb shit that makes no sense, but actually looks cool and changes the way your character functions in a cool way. Not
Yeah.
like breaking the game. It's just the swing pattern's the same, everything's the same. It just looks cooler. Yes, cock rags. We need cock rags.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Or even if it's not cosmetic, we've seen with the minor artifacts that they can do things that even if they're like kind of dog shit, it's still something. So like you could have Warlord's Crown and it gives I don't
Plus
know,
one
dude.
all? I don't,
Plus,
you know what I
plus
mean?
2 strength and an AoE around you, including to enemies. Like something where you're like, wait, I could use that. It helps my ranger. Like whatever the case is, like they can do something. And they're just other things to buy and other things that you feel good about when you get.
We could add minor artifacts to bosses, actually. You could add like
Yeah.
different minor artifacts specific to them. I think would be a
Mhm.
cool kind of change.
And just like with the actual minor artifacts, some are fucking useless, like Bloodsap Blade, and others like Spellplanter Rod are really awesome. And so you have the same thing.
Yeah, I love the minor artifacts are great. I just started recently playing with Spellplanter Rod, and I'm like, why isn't every melee weapon do this? Like,
Yeah,
like
Spellplanter is game changing for Wizards.
At the point we're going with the game, I think that it
clerics.
should. I don't like the idea of spell charges anymore, especially considering we're pushing in such a movement heavy and no sit down. Like, I just want to know, are we going in that direction, Iron Mace, or are we going to be in the slower pace? Because you've told me two different things. You've told me one way where you're supposed to slow down, sit, recover your spells, but then you keep feeding me classes that don't have to sit, that don't have to recover, that don't have to do anything, and enhance my ability to not do that. So
Well,
which is it really supposed to be?
To be fair, though, Clarity Potions and the Bard Song
True.
and increased rarity of campfires.
So we're
and
saying we don't need
Spellplanter
to sit.
Rod, those are 4 ways where your class becomes stronger, better, faster via an expense. So I like that. And most classes have to buy something to operate. Rogues need throwing knives, barbarians need Franciscas, wizards need clarity potions. Like we
and it
probably got one.
all came full circle to the utility gear score, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there it is. Let's get that utility gear score, baby.
I think that might have been the best idea of the podcast. I
That
really
was a
like
great.
idea.
Agreed.
It was fast too.
Yep. That and self-found,
it's-
obviously.
Obviously.
Ah,
damn it.
You son of a bitch. No, I do think that
Do they
it's an
sponsor
immediate
you, Arcane?
solution.
Huh?
Are you
Who?
sponsored by the solo
Yes,
self-found
yeah.
group?
Brought to you by Solo
Selby's
Self-Found.
behind him with a serve bow just pointing at him.
Yeah. A 1v3
Would
your
it be a
whole team,
serve?
bitch.
Yeah. I've done it before.
What else we got?
How do clarity potions make you stronger? I'm glad you're one of Ken's chatters.
My God.
Clarities are great, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
what a dumb question. Next.
it's a faster campfire. Okay, that's all it is. Okay,
Yeah.
very good though. It's very good.
Mhm.
Man, chat. You have several questions today. Flame chat.
That's terrible.
Okay, I have one that I like. It says, when we're gonna get a boss that's weak to magic? I agree. That's a good question.
A what?
And I feel like a lot of times, I think they even said like Banshee was supposed to be a boss that's like more like ranged and like magic killable, and in the end, it's just as meleeable as any other boss. And in fact, being closer is
It
usually
can't
better.
be parried is the only
Yeah.
difference. You can't parry her.
Right, but you're still just swinging.
If
I
you're
would like
lucky.
to see a magic, like a low magic resist boss. Why not? Although I will say, watching some of the best teams in the world and the best players, Magic Missile fucking destroys every single boss in this game. And you usually need someone else to have aggro, but like if you're
Spectral Knight
built
would like to
well
have a
and you're
word with you.
fast- Oh,
Yes, but hell, not every boss. I mean,
Not every boss.
it is very
Go
funny.
ahead.
It is very
Okay.
funny when I'm like,
You will kill me.
you
I,
want those missiles.
I have a teammate fighting Spectral, and I just shoot a million missiles at the boss.
Yeah.
And they're just spitting.
It's not a
and-
good time for me.
It's fun
They're
to
going to
watch,
hit
though.
Well, a lot of
something. The
bosses.
floor, the boss, or the end boss.
That's a whole lot of not my
Warlord,
problem.
Lich, Ghost King, a lot of those you just fucking, it's like a machine gun.
I absolutely
Magic
agree. But
machine
yeah,
gun.
he is definitely the exception, but I still think he's the best fight in the game. And I hate when Naz rags on him because I love that fight. He's so engaging.
Spectral?
He wants you to be yes.
Yeah.
I love that fight.
Yeah.
It's the best fight in the game without question.
It's dude, if you have a longsword, it is the coolest, most
Yeah, it
technical
is.
fight in the game, and it feels
Agreed.
fucking
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Feels great. It's also a boss that you can fight in Squire gear and make a shitload of money. Even in HR, like you bring in like 2 windlasses, and I see it all the time. They're just in plate with like a white like a sterling blade, a sterling longsword, and they're just farming. And you're
Yeah.
pulling like unique gems from that pile. People get chests there. By the
I
way,
was told that the
pulled 2
developer
chests
of
this
that
week.
boss, I think you were there. The developer of that boss was actually heavily the boss itself was heavily influenced by Dark Souls,
By
is what
Dark
I should
Souls,
say.
yeah. Mhm.
Yes, it was a true. That is true. That was
That's
a
a good
fact.
boss,
that
dude.
boss was actually influenced by it. He said that
It-
the designer had been playing a lot of Elden Ring and Souls likes at the time. I thought that was really
I
cool.
believe it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Very
We can
cool.
have more like that. We can also have phases. I could see like a dragon riding boss. I know we already have wyvern, so like we don't need to do dragon again, but something. I don't know.
I think it'd be really cool to have a portal that spawns at the end that takes you to like I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna bring it up. Like I'm talking a zone-sized boss. Like imagine not a wyvern, a
Mm.
fucking dragon, where instead of dropping in on
Colossal.
the level, you drop in on his fucking back, and he is just circling around the
All
map,
right,
and you are
Deathwing.
trying to beat him. Like
That's
yeah,
Deathwing.
Deathwing, exactly, dude. That was a really fucking epic fight.
Like
And
a
it
god of
feels so
God of
cool.
war fight, and as you
Yes,
phase,
like
it like changes the
you're going
angle
through
or the
like one
thematic.
maybe one
Yeah.
of the maybe the phase starts with Wyvern, breaks out of the ice, you beat his ass, he dies, and a fucking giant pair of eyes open in the background, and the fucking whole ice map shatters, and you fall into the back of a dragon. And come on, man. Fucking coolest shit ever. You're riding him, you're clipping off his wings, he crashes on the ground, you have a ground battle phase, like
And the whole entire time that that's happening, there are 3 pickpocket rogues who are in Viz, and they're waiting for you to finish. They're just shifting around the dragon's back.
I just really like the idea of those big, like if we're gonna have a small scale boss fight, Spectral Knight's a perfect example. But I want to have like a big. You do not go soloing this boss. You know, like you're riding on the back of it, and you're like standing at one wing. Like the other mechanic requires you to have a second person. I want to have like a really epic fight, but not like a PvP battle. You know, like a guild queue sort of thing, where you're going with that with the guild systems. But yeah,
That used to be the Wyvern. Remember when the Wyvern came out? Everyone was like, "Oh, no one is soloing that boss." Like,
Right.
yeah,
because you
that was
couldn't.
just-
You couldn't even activate it.
True.
Well, there was that too, but
Yeah.
yeah, the
I
claim
mean, that was a cool
just-
boss. That was in line with Destiny, where it took like 3 days for anyone to beat it. And I think it was Jay's team. And then after that, it was like 2 more days before people actually broke down like how to actually beat it, not just like having 9 people just kind of kill it.
right.
Like that shit's cool, man. And I think we could. I got to give it to Bungie. Like the world race to defeat the new Destiny raids are always a good time. Same with World of Warcraft. You know, beating heroic or mythic or whatever the fuck it is. We can do that, and I think Dragon proved that because everyone was doing it. Everyone was fighting Dragon for like 3 days.
We have
Well,
6
fellas-
fights, like Wyvern and like Spectral Knight. Then we have some of the worst mobs in the game, like slimes and gargoyles, like the duality of man. Holy crap! So I hate those gargoyles. I really do.
Or Banshee.
I also hate
Yeah.
gargoyles.
Yeah.
I like slimes though. Slimes are cool.
I like FPS, so I don't like slime.
Oh, fair.
Well, fellas, it's been a
Yep.
good one. We're about
It
2
has.
hours and 15 minutes in. Our goal, our New Year's resolution, is to be more consistent and frequent. So I'm gonna play Dad for our Dad podcast and harass all you guys to try to do this once every 2 weeks at the minimum at this point.
Thank God.
Yeah, no,
Alright.
I'm down. I am very down.
Cool. That is the plan. Chats, thanks for tuning in as always. Hopefully by the next time we do this, we have a patch where they've randomized ruins and goblin and ice cavern, and we have guilds and a new training progression system. I'm sure it'll all be done by the very next time.
Very ready for it.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
Artificer. Yeah,
And the card
That's right.
game.
Yep. Definitely a card game.
and like a crypto rug pull. Yeah.
And self-found.
And fishing.
Got it. Awesome. All right,
And
gents.
guns.
All right, GG's. Good
All right.
podcast.
GG's. Thanks, chats.
Later, nerds.
Until next
you
time.
can You can find me at twitch.tv/SoBadStrange, and YouTube is the same. Yeah, these other guys
Yeah.
don't matter. Thank
Yeah,
you all.
I don't think anybody asked actually. So you know.
No.
Yeah,
but,
Who?
nobody.
but as a good creator, I'll let you know.
Mm.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
it's pretty consistent. So for Emboss, Ken, and So Bad Strange, you can find them all at the channels as they're spelled out here. For me, it's Arcane Armor on YouTube.
YouTube.com/SamSilic. That's my YouTube channel.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's actually true.
I mean, you're small compared to him, though. Come on.
There's still time.
Small time. Later
I
on.
hear what you're saying.
Bye, boss.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you, Daddy Scott. Keep us whipped in shape with good topics. You're
Will
an
do, man.
integral part of this team.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right, fare thee
Same.
well.